Topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal. Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at naturesyouth.com. naturesyouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at naturesyouth.com. That's naturesyouth.com. That's naturesyouth.com.
Hi, guys. Matt Ray with America's First News. And if you're like me, you're probably still looking for that special Christmas gift for your wife or girlfriend. Treat her to the very best this year. The world's softest pajamas from Pajamagram. Because they are the world's softest pajamas, they're lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny. They're like cashmere, only better, and you'll love the way they look. She'll love the way they feel. The softness, the warmth, the comfort. And if you're like me, you can't stand wrapping presents. It's tough to do. Well, get this. Pajamagram includes free gift packaging. All you have to do is make the order, and delivery is guaranteed by Christmas. Plus, they're backed by a 100% lifetime guarantee. You risk nothing but the look on her face, guys, when she opens the Pajamagram. So go to Pajamagram.com right now. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you.
Hi, Jeremy Scott here from Into the Paranormal, and I'm back live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
This is Paranormal News. I'm John Jeter. The New Horizons space probe has a New Year's Day date. It will zoom close by a reddish object in the Kuiper Belt, nicknamed Ultima Thule, the farther object in the solar system to be visited by a spacecraft.
So the really cool thing about Ultima Thule is it's in a zone that has been sort of put in a deep freeze ever since the solar system formed, around 4.6 billion years old. We're looking at what essentially are the building blocks of the planets as we know them.
Since leaving Pluto in 2015, New Horizons has traveled nearly 1 billion miles. It sent back the first images of this object in August. It takes more than 6 hours for radio waves traveling at the speed of light to reach the probe. Thule could be conjoined asteroids about 12 miles across. It takes over 296 years to completely orbit the sun. The most distant object ever observed in our solar system has been found orbiting the sun about 11.2 billion miles away. It's a new dwarf planet over 3 times as far away as Pluto, named 2018 VG18, or even better, far out, man. It was spotted by the Japanese Subaru telescope in Hawaii last month by Scott Shepard of the Carnegie Institution for Science and colleagues. It orbits at an unusual angle with other trans-Neptunian objects. So what could be causing this strange trajectory? Could be Planet X. It could also be a group of objects within the same gravitational field. Connect with the news at paranormalradio.com. I'm John Cheater, and this is Paranormal News.
We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better, and we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Acorus, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS Tsakiris.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Roop.
Good evening. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void. It is Wednesday night, January the 2nd, on into the 3rd, and we are live on KTLK Digital Broadcasting, the Fringe FM. Our website is lightingthevoid.com. You can find us anywhere on social media. Just give us a follow at Lighting the Void. It's pretty simple to find that. If you want to call in, it's 1-800-588-0335. That number is toll-free from the United States or Canada, as well as you can text in the show at 501-777-5631. Tonight, we're going to be talking about an important subject, our current understandings of consciousness, with Alex Tsakaris is going to be on here with us for the first part of the show, and then John Brisson from FixYourGut.com is going to be here. And some of what I told you guys before about some of these podcasts and these shows, you guys heard me talk about this. There's amazing stuff out there right now, amazing stuff that I believe some of you guys are missing out on, coming from people like you and me that are asking the important questions. And I'm sure if you've heard of this guy, but if you haven't, I'll tell you a little bit about him. I want to say a quick thank you, though, to all of you that have supported the show. Jan, Barbara, Edward, Genevieve. I got a really cool gift from Genevieve. I wish I could go into that. I don't know if she wants me to or not, but I had a Merry Christmas thanks to Genevieve. And I want to thank all of you who have supported the show, because without you guys, we wouldn't be moving along here. But Alex Acorus is the host of Skeptiko. The website is Skeptiko.com, and he's the author of Why Science is Wrong about almost everything. He's a successful entrepreneur turned science podcaster, and in 2007 he founded Skeptiko, which has become the #1 podcast covering the science of human consciousness. He's appeared on many syndicated radio talk shows and podcasts, both in the U.S. and in the U.K., and is well known within the parapsychology and near-death experience research committee. Excuse me. Alex, it's a real pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for being here, man.
Likewise, Joe. I'm excited. You know, we're just chatting. I was kind of new to the show, but I am a fan. I'm waiting for my T-shirt to show up. but I listened to the Year in Review show, and I was just super psyched with the work that you're doing and the chance to be on and, really have a chance to talk.
Right on. Thanks for grabbing a T-shirt, by the way. I appreciate that, man. I was wondering who that was. I was like, oh, I sold a T-shirt. That's cool.
Looks good. Late Christmas present. I'll exchange one of my other ones.
Right. Now, let me tell you about the first show that I watched with you. And the first show that I watched was with you and Jason Louv, which was the reason why I wanted to watch it is because John said, hey, you need to watch this. And there were two ideas. And it got controversial. And, but I respect both of you. But it was, honestly, it was real cool. But you're not really this guy that's looking for controversy. But what I liked about you is that you weren't afraid to ask the hard questions, period. It didn't matter who you were talking to, what doctor, it doesn't matter. You wanted to ask the tough questions. And I think that that's really important because right now we have a lot of people just getting guests on because they want to get guests on so they can get their show big, but they're not asking the right questions. And I've always thought that. And Skeptiko is not that. You're doing that. You're asking the right questions. I think that's really cool.
Well, thanks for saying that. We were just chatting a little bit about the Jason Louv interview. I didn't necessarily go looking to start a fight, and I didn't really know where it was going. But as you said, I'm kind of a follow the data wherever it leads guy. And when I don't get answers or when things don't add up, I do feel compelled to push further. I mean, that's just kind of my nature anyway. So, yeah, that one went kind of strange when he started pitching this magic scientism blend kind of thing. And I was like, I don't see where that really squares with, because I bit my teeth on the skeptics. I started this thing a while ago, and I was interviewing all the mainline, Michael Shermer kind of skeptics. And I've interviewed Shermer a couple of times, and I kind of enjoyed him. He's like a friend of me. A total bullshit, but I don't mind battling those guys, and I don't mind battling the other guys. Steve Novella, Dr. Steve Novella at Yale, is kind of the guy who came up in the Jason Louv interview because Louv was actually recommending some work that's some paper that Steve Novella did. Do you know who Steve Novella is? I mean, he's the most hardcore skeptic. He is totally dismissive of anything in the extended consciousness, parapsychology, magic. I mean, he would laugh you out of the room. Why would you, do you support those ideas? And how are those two things, compatible? Right. So, yeah, right. That's one we could certainly talk about that.
Well, I consider myself kind of a magic guy. And I remember you saying, like, you magic guys, you're talking about this stuff, but you're not asking them the important questions. And I recently became a subscriber to Gordon White's website. I've got all of his books, and here's the thing, Alex, that I'm learning about all of these people and myself is that we get our ideas and all of the stuff that we learned about, and what we believe about consciousness from the books that we read. It really doesn't matter who you talk to. Most people are talking about the stuff they learned from books and sprinkling in their experience. But I think we need to focus on the experience more. We don't give that enough validity, I think.
Well, I think it's tricky too. I mean, I would, one thing I love about what Gordon does, and Gordon's been on the show a couple times on my show, and I've been on his show a couple times. I have a lot of respect for what he does, because he's one of these people. I think to play the game right now, you gotta kind of have your foot in a couple of different camps, in my opinion. When you say we're talking about the magic guys, or this and that, that's kind of a term. The way I put it is extended consciousness. You have to embrace the idea that we have this ordinary consciousness, and then we have this extended consciousness. We want to talk about near-death experience or UFOs or parapsychology or magic, spirits, demons, all that stuff. I would lump that into some category, the psychedelic experience and theogens, extended consciousness. So you got to be playing that game. At the same time, I think you have to be playing the science game, the consensus reality game is the way I call it. I mean, we are talking, we don't know how, but it kind of works. We made the connection in Google Hangouts, and I'm on a microphone and you're on a microphone. All this shit seems to work, and the fact that it does is a certain reality that we have to deal with as well. So science, the scientific method, brings something to the table. What I don't want to go to is the scientism thing, where that becomes a religion, a dogma, an unchallengeable kind of truth. But the third thing I think that you have to do, and this is, again, where I think Gordon is playing in all three of these, and I've always played in all three of these, is the conspiratorial part. If you're not asking the questions about who is really pulling the strings in these different games that I'm playing in, and is there some kind of other control force going on? And I'm not saying it's always in play, but if you're not asking that question, then I think you're also, open to being duped.
Sure. Yeah. And that's the one thing that I don't talk about conspiracy too much on the show. And I'll tell you why. It's not because I'm against it. It's because the depths of it is so deep,
right,
that I'm afraid that I'm going to go down the wrong road. I don't trust the information that I get, even books. There's books I don't trust. And Gordon was the first person that, led me to that idea that said, look, ideas get passed around from book to book without ever being controverted, and I was thinking, man, that's true, because I've seen a lot of this stuff. And when you read articles on the web, you don't know where it's coming from. And then you look into what they're really doing. You look at the patents of all the weapons they have, all of the CIA documents that shows they're experimenting with consciousness and that it was very effective. But it seems like science and hardcore skeptics are still pushing that materialism idea.
Well, see, now right there to me, Joe, is a perfect example of a straight up conspiracy, and one that I don't hear enough people talking about. And that is I call it, this idea of scientific materialism is that you are a biological robot in a meaningless universe. I mean, I got kids and I marched them all to school and let the teachers take them into science class, knowing full well that they're going to be taught this crazy idea that they're a biological robot. There's no real love. Love doesn't really exist. It's just a firing of the brain, that there's no meaning to anything. There's no existence beyond death. There's no existence beyond these physical bodies. All this stuff we know scientifically is not true, yet that's what we're taught, and we're all, asked to go along with that. But I'd like the point that you just made right there, which I think is a really important one, is that when you really look into it, that's not the reality that our shadow government has been playing. You had Dr. Dean Radin on, and you did a fantastic interview with him, and I really enjoyed the clips that I listened to. And I have a ton of respect for Dean, and have for a number of years, and he's been on the show multiple times, and he's done significant work, important work in exposing the larger consciousness. But at the same time, he talks about working with the remote viewing folks at Stanford Research Institute and doing that. Well, the guy, let me break this down a minute. When they were doing the Stargate work, which was psychic spying, so they had Uri Geller and they brought him in, and then they had all these other guys, and Hal Puthoff, and they're using these guys. Probably most of your audience knows what remote viewing is, but they're trying to observe things psychically for the purpose of spying. Well, when they did that, they were presupposing that it worked. They weren't doing it to test it out and say, well, I don't know if it works or not. They said, no, yeah, this shit works. Let's see if we can see that Russian sub. And in doing so, they were violating all this stuff that you hear Neil deGrasse Tyson, Michael Shermer, all that, mainstream science, all the things that mainstream science says is impossible, they were assuming was possible, and they were working to try and weaponize it, try and operationalize it. So isn't that a conspiracy when you have the real movers and shakers who are saying, oh, yeah, well, we know that's true. And by the way, let's see if demonology, let's see if that works. Let's see if, Aleister Crowley, 50 years before. Well, yeah, let's get him in there. And yet our educational system is pitching a whole different story that's saying, no, none of that stuff is possible.
Yeah, we need to change that. I mean, that should be obvious at this point. Our history is wrong. Science is wrong about a lot of things, but I have respect for scientists. I've had Thomas Campbell on the show too. I've had other scientists. I've had doctors on here, but mainly it's people. When people approach me, Alex, and they say you're asking questions that they need to be held as a mystery, and that's just it. You're never going to know. So why are you pursuing it? And I think the thing about it is the reason why I do it is because I think we've been lied to for a long time about the human potential, who we are, where we come from, what we're capable of, what's really going on behind the veil. And I'm just curious as to what you think about that when somebody asks you those questions, like, you're never going to know. Have you ever heard someone say that to you? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, and the whole thing about, there's a certain truth to it, I think, because it does ring true to us from life experience. If you've gone down this path and, I've heard bits and pieces of your story, but I'd sure like to know more, because it sounds like at a very early age, you were exposed to the idea that there's a lot more out there. And maybe you can share that with me if we have the time. But I think that all of us have these glimpses that there's more, but at the same, and that it's kind of never, the more is kind of never ending. But at the same time, we do have I feel a need to try and pin it down as best I can. And I think there are some, if it's an illusion of knowledge that I've gained by studying this, I don't know, but it feels better to kind of try and wrap my arms around it. But would you mind sharing with me, some of your first experiences? Because you experienced this stuff at a very young age, didn't you?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I saw things with my eyes open. And I was taught to, when I was younger, I would see shadows, things that would, torture me to the point where I'd have to put the covers over my head with my eyes open when I was a young child. And I would run into my father's bedroom because it was right across the hall. Countless nights I remember running into his bedroom and telling him, man, there's something in here. And that's something we blow off. Kids say that all the time. It's just your imagination. And I do remember one time my dad literally had to turn the light on, and he sat me down and looked at me and said, it's just your imagination. You're making these things up in your mind, and they're attacking you. And you got to learn to stop that. And he wanted to sleep in a house that was totally quiet, totally dark. Otherwise, he couldn't sleep, which, freaks a little kid out. Didn't really have a mother, so I had a lot of separation anxiety when I was a kid. I just figured that out not too long ago. But what I did, Alex, is I trained my mind to make this stuff go away. And I used to think, okay, well, that's all in my mind. Well, after studying the mystics, and I've even went through a few mystery schools myself, Freemasonry, Rosicrucian, and then went back into studying my consciousness, the idea that I'm learning that the idea that when we say the imagination isn't real, right, I believe is totally false. We consider it to be something that is not real, that it's just a hallucination and there's nothing there. I don't know that I believe that.
Well, I think we were chatting a minute ago about, quantum physics, and a lot of times as soon as you bring up quantum physics, people kind of pull back like, oh, woo, quantum physics. Quantum physics is some of the most well-established, well-used hard science that we have. This vehicle that we're talking on is using quantum physics. Your computer is using quantum physics. And that's what the hell they're telling us. Mm-hmm. They're telling us at some level that until, the observer effect, until you observe it, it isn't real. It's a wave or it's a particle based on whether you observe it. Well, that is essentially imagination. That is saying that you are imagining the world into existence. That's what Thomas Campbell is saying. I don't quite like the way that he says it, because I think the simulation thing kind of takes us in the wrong direction. But you go back to the Buddhists and the tulpa, that everything is a thought form. When you think it and imagine it, it somehow takes a life. And I don't know what that exactly means, but I resonate with what you're saying about imagination being more real, in some way that we don't totally understand. But I say all that, I don't want to sound like a new ager, because I've always tried to stick to the science the best I can, to kind of play that game, just because it kind of takes me in places where I feel like I can, wrap my arms around this. So
Sure.
The Dean Radin stuff, the Rupert Sheldrake stuff, the other science, that I think the near-death experience science is super interesting, important. Over 200 peer-reviewed papers published in some of the top journals in the world. The Lancet, one of the top medical journals, has published several. So, that's one of the things that I think is important, is to understand that you can do science and nudge a little bit closer to some of these things that we're curious about.
Yeah, I love. Science is great because it's how we measure stuff. That's we figure it out. We give something a name, and then we measure it, and then we keep doing experiments. We give it another name, and we measure it. But I don't think we should, totally live by it from a materialistic point of view. And I'll say this because I can agree with you on that. I've talked to Dr. Kolbaba, who was a doctor who had countless doctors to talk about this stuff. As far as the near-death experience goes, we could look at that stuff all day long, but to have other doctors and scientists, they just throw it away, and they kind of like this Steve Novella guy. And I respect anybody that has their opinions based on their studies and research, but to say that we're all making this up, how is it possible that we're all making this up when they can't explain, to this day, consciousness? It just baffles them. All they can do is yell from the sidelines. They cannot explain it. And until they can, we don't really have the answers from science about that.
Well, I think the tide is turning slightly on that. I think consciousness is an illusion. You are a biological robot in a meaningless universe. That just doesn't fly anymore. The near-death experience stuff has penetrated the culture, massively, in the movies and the books and all that stuff. And even the parapsychology, ESP stuff, it just doesn't fly anymore. It never really did make any sense. It kind of contradicted itself on a bunch of different levels, even on the simple, mind-body thing that we all kind of experience, where, your mind can affect your body. Well, that, in a way, violates the whole idea that, you're just this robot that's just kicking out things. So it was always on shaky ground, and I think the last 10 years has been really hard on the hardcore materialists. So I think that game is almost over, but what game will be replaced, with it? I don't know. I have some ideas, but we'll have to see how that plays out.
Well, what got you into this? Because I think the thing about you is, when I saw the word Skeptiko, I don't hate a lot of things. I don't really, certain things annoy the hell out of me. And I'll tell you what certain things, professional skeptics, I'm talking about religious skeptics, they annoy me, Alex. They just do, because if you said, okay, let's do this experiment to a professional skeptic, I want you to sit in this sensory deprivation tank, and I want you to just keep doing it until you have an experience, and then tell me what happens. They're programmed to try not to make things happen, because they don't want to. I used to think it was okay to argue with a professional skeptic, but every time I run into them, they have the same program a religious person would. They're not willing to go outside the box on what they think. And so we're not getting anywhere with that. And when I saw the name of your show, Skeptiko, I was thinking, well, Skeptiko, well, this has got to be about, I assumed, and you know what happens when we assume, I made an ass out of myself thinking that your show was totally about just being a skeptic, and it's not. I get what it is now. So I'm wondering if something happened to you.
Well, you know, not really, Joe. I started the show because, you know, I've told this story before. I started the show pretty early on in the whole podcasting world. And I did it because I really wanted answers to these questions. You know, who are we? Why are we here? Those seemed to me, I had the ability. I had a company and I sold it and I had a little bit of money and I had a little bit of time and I was always interested in these things. I mean, I was deeply interested in these things and I was like, hey, I can do this now. And, you know, that podcasting was possible. Get a microphone, get a little setup and you can do it. And I saw there being this legitimate, what I thought was legitimate debate between skeptics and these frontier scientists, mainly like parapsychology people like Dean Braden and Rupert Sheldrake and the rest. And I said, I want to understand that. And I just kind of randomly picked the name skeptic. I looked up the origin of it. It was these Greek philosophers. My ethnic background is Greek. It was Skeptikos was the group. Skeptiko. Okay, that's it. Just really didn't give it much thought, you know?
Right.
But the funny thing about it, Joe, is it took me about 5 years into it that I went and really looked up to see what these guys were doing way back then. And they have this great line in there, and it's become my tagline. Inquiry to perpetuate doubt. That's what these ancient Greek philosophers were into. Inquiry to perpetuate doubt. And I thought, you know what? That is a beautiful thing. That is a spiritual thing, because doubt is a spiritual thing. To not be sure, to be doubting, because as soon as you know the answer, you're lost, man, right? It's like you were saying before about, you know, the experiential part of it and always being open to what's going to be new and come along. I think there's something beautiful in that. And then, you know, I've been very interested in yoga for a long time too. And I look in that wisdom tradition and they have the same damn thing. They call it neti, neti, neti. Not this, not this, not this. I think there's something deeply spiritual in truly being someone who's looking for the next question. And not that I'm not open to moving towards an answer, but I'm always open for that answer being replaced with another truth if I find it. And those are the people I really connect with most on the show. You know, I could just tell you a little story, but to me, it's like quintessential Skeptiko. I was interviewing this near-death experience scientist who I really, really like. His name is Dr. Jeff Long. And he's a radiation oncologist from Yuma, Louisiana, an hour outside of New Orleans. And this guy single-handedly has really transformed near-death experience science by doing the first truly scientific, comprehensive survey of all these experiences that people have had, these near-death experiences. And he put it on the web, and it just sensationally wrote a couple of New York Times best-selling books about it. But here was the moment. He's telling me about the research that a skeptic did based on his data. He said, there's this guy from University of Kentucky. He came, he kind of warmed up to me. He said, hey, blah, 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 let's do this together. He says, I helped the guy out, shared some of my data with him, and he publishes his work, and his work is completely the opposite of mine. He says all this near-death experience stuff is bunk. And he says it's REM intrusion, you know, the REM sleep cycle. Right. He had this convoluted theory. But here's the moment. My buddy Jeff says, at that moment I read it and I said, oh my God, he's right. He's right. I'm wrong. I've been wrong. Oh my, what'll I do? He said, then I caught something. I went a little bit further. I read a little bit more and I go, no, that's not right. He left this out. He forgot this. He forgot that. But it's like, at that moment, he was open to the possibility that even though he'd done all this work, even though he'd written a New York Times bestseller, hey, maybe he was wrong. You know what I mean? To me, that's the beauty of where I want to be. I want to be always open to, you know, maybe there's something out there. Maybe there's something I haven't learned, experienced, or understood that, you know, will inch me a little bit closer and make me, you know, a better person, a better able to do the things that I need to do.
Yeah, it's like Whitley Strieber said, right? Answers are walls and questions are doorways, pretty much. You know, and I love your interview with Whitley. I thought it was phenomenal. Yeah, when I did that, those are just little pieces of the interviews I did in 2018. Those were just small segments because I was trying to think, okay, did we learn something in 2018 so we can move forward to 2019? And so far, what I'm learning is the human potential. Like there's a big lie going on that when I say powerless, I don't want people to think that everybody's a high wizard and they can just cast magic and do all this stuff. I don't know that. But what I mean is we've been taught for a long time that we're nothing but meat bodies, you know, pretty much. And everybody, since I was a kid, everybody, you know, was religious or you just didn't ask questions like that. Now everybody's asking those questions. And so when people come out with an answer, when they declare they have clear answers to this stuff, I get a little a healthy skeptic like you do about it. You got to be that's the difference between a professional skeptic and I guess you would say a healthy skeptic.
I'd agree.
But
well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But the thing is but I'm a little different though. I still want the answers though, you know? And I think the way that we do that is we experiment. The only power we have is experimenting with our consciousness, become effective explorers of consciousness without fear. And if we run into things that scare us, it's okay to back off, but we got to figure out why did that scare us and maybe what that thing is. Because there's a movement against these things now, like big time. I'm starting to see it come out.
Well, I think there always has been. And again, you know, referring back to, I've only listened to one of your shows. I'm going to become a regular listener, but I was very fortunate in that the show that I was able to tap into was that year in review show that you did, which was phenomenal. And, you know, the interview segment that I heard from Gordon White, he does an awesome job of painting that history that, hey, it's always been about using this interest we have in these extended consciousness realms as a vehicle to control people, you know, to either pack it down so people don't even look in that way or are very afraid of it or just only get a narrow slice of it. So that's always been the control game. You know, you don't want that out of the bag.
No, for sure. And I'm kind of wondering too, you've interviewed a lot of really great people. You guys should go check out the podcast if you haven't heard it. Do you have any theories on some of this stuff at all that you think might be real? And what I mean by that is, are you closer to any answers than where you started? Because I feel like I am, but I just can't really put words to it.
You know, one of the ways I'd answer that is kind of tapping into a question that I've heard you probe several times, and that's this, you know, black magic, white magic thing.
Yeah.
And I think the question kind of puts us in the wrong direction. Here's one thing that I wouldn't say I'm rock solid learning, but I've come to accept as a reality because it just pops through again and again. It's a consistent theme of the near-death experience science. And when I say near-death experience science, I'd go back and refer to what I just said. Folks, they've published peer-reviewed papers on this where they studied near-death experience in very controlled ways. One of my favorite studies is, beyond the one from Jeff Long, is from this woman in England named Dr. Penny Sartori. And I'll just tell you really quickly for folks who are listening who haven't heard it. If they've listened to Skeptiko, they've heard it plenty because I always talk about it. But she said, okay, there's this question of whether or not these memories that people have of being dead are real, whether they were really dead, and whether it's just the last gasp of a dying brain. So she said, here's what I'm going to do. I work as a nurse. She's a PhD, a doctorate, but a PhD in nursing, and she had worked as a nurse before in emergency care, cardiac arrest ward. And she said, I'm going to go to people in that cardiac arrest ward, and I'm going to interview them after they've been resuscitated. So she took a group of people that were dead, that at a time when, back to our buddy, Dr. Steve Novella, our Yale neurologist, our skeptic. If you go to him and he studies neurology and you said, okay, Steve, if someone's been dead for 2 minutes, which is the average time that at which in a hospital resuscitation begins. We see it on TV and we think, the guy flatlines and it's like, oh my God, they're there with the paddles. It's like, that's not how it works in a hospital. The average time is 2 minutes, and a lot of people don't even receive the paddles. They get the pressing compression first. But anyways, if you went to Dr. Novella and you said, is there any chance that that person is having memories, is forming memories at that time, 2 minutes after their heart stops? He would tell you no. He would tell you, well, we have 50 years of EEG work and on animals and humans, and we know that even if there's any slight activity, there's no way that people are having conscious experience, memory forming experiences, any of that stuff. That isn't happening at that time. So unless you want to violate all of neuroscience as we know it, we got to listen then to what Penny did in her research. So she went back to the cardiac arrest ward, and she took the people who had the cardiac arrest, and she went to so she had, like, I'm going to have to make this part up, but it's there in the research if you want to look at it. She had 10 people who had a near-death experience, and she had 40 people who didn't have a near-death experience. They all had died, they all had cardiac arrest, and they all had been resuscitated. And she went to the 40 people that said they didn't have a near-death experience, and she said, well, what happened after you died? She said, how were you resuscitated? And they looked at her like she was crazy. They go, what do you mean? I was dead. I have no idea. She goes, well, just give me your best guess. What do you think we did? And they gave answers that were like random, like you'd see on TV. Well, they wheeled a cart in, and if you really want to know, I have no idea, but I'll make it up, right? And then she went to the 10 people who had a near-death experience. And they were like, oh, I'll tell you exactly what happened. They wheeled the cart in, but the cart didn't work. So this one nurse got on top of me, but she wasn't big enough. So this other big guy, they'll tell it exactly what happened. Well, this is not supposed to go like that. But this is the kind of research, when I say near-death experience research, science research published in journals, this is the kind of research that's out there that totally blows the skeptical notions of near-death experience out the door. It really happens. But I digress, man, because it's
that's a good answer to my question. What have you, because I think a lot of our answers are broad, but they're important.
Here's my thing, here's my takeaway. For the white magic, black magic, what the near-death experience tells us, if you accept that it's real, what the science tells us is you will be judged. You will be judged for everything that you do, for everything that you think. And now if you're recoiling because, like me, you were brought up Christian and it didn't work very good for me or for anyone I know, hey, forget it. Because you know what? Jesus ain't judging you. God ain't judging you. You will judge you. Your soul will judge you. There's a part of you inside of you that is aware of who you are, that knows what's right and what's wrong, what's black magic and what's white magic, because it's all gray, right? There's no clear lines on the road. We have to decide where we're going to drive. So that, to me, is what I've learned, is that I will be judged and I will act as if all my deeds are judged. And that's going to look different for me than it is for you. I'm not, I'm going to do some things and somebody says, you're going to pay. Well, maybe I won't pay for that, but I'm doing it. But that's what I take away.
Man, that's a solid answer to that. Because, in all of the books I've read about near-death experiences, and even Michael Newton's book, Journey of Souls, which is a really good book. I'm not so sure about hypnotism, but I think it's tapping into the subconscious, but he would take his clients down to the point of in between lives, right? And that's exactly what they all had to do. They had this kind of review that they went through, even about the little things. And a lot of times they would feel the way they made other people feel. And you think, well, that's somebody going into hypnotism. But the thing about his work is that it was common. That's what I look for, is parallels. It was common from many of his clients. They took their beliefs and the things they did in their life into that realm, and they had to experience all of the good or bad things that they really did that were super important. And some of them were big things, and some of them were real small things, like what they said to somebody on a park bench or when they hugged somebody that needed it. And you're thinking, And all it was energy. They were energetic colors of light, and they were all forms of different colors. And there was no black magic or white magic talk. There was just choices, and this is what happens, more of a cause and effect type thing. So I thought that was interesting.
I agree. I think it is interesting. I'm totally with you on that, and I love how you picked up on the what our ego tells us is important and not important. From that other perspective, it all takes on a different meaning. That just rings true to me. I mean, I think it rings true to a lot of us that, hey, that's our life. It's these little things that we do, with our family or with our friends or, people we don't even know. We just know that those things have an importance that's much greater than we're told,
Yeah, sure. And the UFO thing is something. When I got into this, I wasn't even worried about UFOs, aliens, none of that. But I kept running into it, especially with people like Whitley Strieber. I found out actually through Gordon before he wrote his big book, Communion, that he was doing studies under Gurdjieff. And then, he's been to the Monroe Institute and has went through all of those programs to experience consciousness at different levels. And during his life, as he's doing all these things, he meets these beings. And if you read Gordon White's book, Starships, the one thing we know about whatever these beings are is they're really interested in what we believe. That's all he knows about. That's all you can look at it and say, why in the hell are these things interested in what we believe and what we're doing? And I really believe, and this is one of the biggest answers I've gotten, I believe that there's something that is keeping our consciousness under control, not in the way of like a hard block, but in a way of making us believe certain things so we don't understand what's really going on. That makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And back to Whitley, right? I mean, one of the stunning things that I just ran across this year, and I'm hot on the trail of pursuing this because it has a lot of interest to me, is Whitley tells the story of being much younger in his life. I don't know if you've heard this part of his story. And when I say story, he's gone to great lengths to corroborate that this really happened to him, that he's a kid in San Antonio, Texas, and he's like 7, 8, 9 years old. And he goes to this special program for kids at Randolph Air Force Base. And it's this horrible MK Ultra breaking kids open to try and give them this, you were talking about your experience of being scared as a little kid. Well, they were trying to put these kids in what they call Skinner boxes, the B.F. Skinner sensory deprivation. And they were doing all these horrible things to these kids because they knew, as we've come to find out, that when you break somebody down, and especially little children, they have this ability to kind of switch into that extended realm in a way that we don't understand. And our wonderful shadow government said, "Well, shit, let's see if we can do that." Well, how
just
messed
use the
up
kids
is that?
like they're just nothing. Yeah. But I mean, what do you think about that, though, from a moral point of view, about how science gets? Because here's the thing I've learned about science a little bit is some of these experiments they're doing, and I mean with weapons, consciousness, you name it. It's like there's no oversight. There's oversight when we do our taxes and all of this other stuff in the government, but when they're playing with smashing atoms together or lasers that can cut through a planet and stuff that we just blow over, there's no oversight. They're just so curious to see how it works, and it doesn't really matter who gets used. Or so that ought to say something, because I think nobody has the answers. There might be people out there like the government. They may have more answers, and what they're willing to do to get it's kind of scary.
Well, back to Whitley, I thought what Whitley said, and he did a great interview on the Higher Side Chats on Greg Carlwood's show, if anyone wants to go dig this up. But he says a beautiful thing that I think, from what we've said, probably you and I can relate to. He goes, they don't realize they're destroying their soul when they do this. And I thought, whoa, that is deep. That's a guy who's going past all this conspiratorial stuff and all this stuff that's happened to him, and he's looking at it from this Newton-like level and saying, dude, you don't realize what you're doing to your eternal soul, and that you will have to deal with this. You will judge yourself on what you're doing, what I hear him say, and that's the only thing that kind of makes sense to me. I don't know if it's true or not. I can't sit here and, but it rings true to me.
Where do you think you're going to go from here? Where does the Skeptiko podcast go from here? What are you chasing down now?
One of the things I'm really interested in, and man, you were right on it. So I'm so appreciative that, you reached out to me, because you're interviewing Whitley, and he's talking about Ann Straber, his wife, coming in and saying, hey, there's some connection to the dead. And then Whitley says, yeah, and I see my buddy from the CIA, and I saw him in my abduction experience. And one of the things I'm curious about is, what is the connection between the abduction experience and the near-death experience? And is there some overlay there that we don't see? Is there some aspect of that is a counterfeited spirituality,
right,
versus you know
I know exactly what you're saying, man. I've been wondering the same thing. Like, I know we get fooled on this realm, the physical realm, but how deep is this veil? Are we getting fooled on the other side too?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we ought to do something together on that. We'll find. I got a couple of guests lined up, and I'm gonna chat you up on that one, and we'll see if we do something together, because I know you're on it. I can tell you're probing into that.
Yeah, well, because I keep running into these gurus and masters and even guest suggestions, and I look into them, and they're meeting these Serpent Kings or whatever, like Serpent Kings. Then I look up Serpent Kings, and that goes back to way back, and I'm thinking, what's that all about? And people having experiences like Robert Monroe and other people that they just reported it, but running into beings that sound horrific. Beings that were sucking the energy from people. It was so weird. Robert Monroe even talked about a being that him and a bunch of other people, he didn't know if they were dead or not when he was in that realm. where they had to lay down and let this thing slither over their stomachs. And I'm going, what the? And there's all kinds of parallels there. And I'm like, yeah, this is kind of freaky. And it sounds like make-believe until you have that experience. And then you come back to this realm, they're like, oh, just like my dad said, it's all in your imagination. Right. That's why we have, deja vu, synchronicities, precognitive dreams. Yeah, it's in my imagination. I don't think so, bud. Something's going on.
I agree.
Well, listen, I don't want to hold you up too long. I just wanted to have you come on the show, and I know it's kind of late for you, and I really appreciate you coming on, man. It's a real pleasure to talking to somebody who kind of gets it,
Hey, it's been great. Like I say, I thoroughly enjoyed the chance to be here, but I'm just super happy that you found me and we found each other. We'll just stay in touch and we'll do some fun stuff.
Yeah, and for everybody that's listening, can you give them, your links or whatever? It's Skeptiko.com, but I don't know about all the social media stuff.
It's Skeptiko with the K, Skeptiko. All the shows are for free. There's no membership. There's no firewall. And the book, Why Science is Wrong About Almost Everything, is the idea that, hey, if you get consciousness wrong, you can't get much right. So that explores that and has a bunch of the interviews in the book too. And a lot of people have enjoyed it. And I hope someone gets some benefit out of it.
Right on. And I'm sure they will. And if you guys enjoy this conversation, you really need to go check out the podcast. There's tons and tons of back interviews and archives of great guests. And again, Alex, thanks so much for coming on. We'll have to do it again sometime.
You bet, Joe. It's been my pleasure thoroughly, buddy. Take care.
You too. All right, guys, we're going to come back with John Brisson. That was Alex Tsakaris from Skeptiko with a K, Skeptiko with a K, Skeptiko.com. We'll leave all the links there on the website. We'll be right back after these words.
Roger, roll, Discovery.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Magic, the occult, history, health, news. These are just a few subjects discussed on my radio broadcast, The Secret Teachings. I offer unique and objective perspectives on new and old subjects alike, while welcoming guests and presenting my own research with no filter. Visit my website for more information and to subscribe to my archive at www.thesecretteachings.info. And find me on The Fringe FM live Monday through Friday, midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWERSAVE to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWERSAVE.
Yohoy there. Gigi here.
And I'm Cortana, and we're going to bring you on a journey through all things paranormal, metaphysical, ufology, and even psychedelic. On our show,
Shift Happens, live, Fridays at 7 p.m. Pacific. That's 10 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
And remember, kids, don't feed the Archons. Feed ducks instead.
Duck up.
Back to Lighting the Void. Don't forget, if you want to support the show, you can donate. There's a donate button on the website. And if you don't support, I need you to send me an email as to why. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, this is Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We just got through speaking with Alex Acorus from the Skeptiko podcast. Great guy. I still highly recommend you guys go check that out for all you people that download and listen to stuff later, which, by the way, I will remind you that if you don't catch this show live, that you can always catch the archives, but this is a radio show, so there's going to be commercials in there if you catch the archives on Spotify or wherever you catch it. But I'm working on something. I just need a little bit of feedback. What I was thinking about doing is making a membership site where you guys could pay maybe $3, because I don't want to make it super expensive, and you get commercial-free archives plus some other things that I'm going to throw in there, and maybe that'll be worth it to you. But I need a little bit of feedback. If you want to contact the show, again, the number is 1-800-588-0335. If you want to call in, we don't screen calls here. We'll take a chance. You can text in at 501-777-5631, or you can email at contact@lightingthevoid.com. Now, our next guest is John Brisson from FixYourGut.com. This is the second time he's been on this show. And I wanted to talk to John a little bit more about the gut, and I mean that in a way. There's some esoteric stuff here we're going to talk about, but anyways, as you go check out the site, FixYourGut.com. He's an author and health consultant. Thanks for coming on the show, John. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me back on, Joe. I'm Lighting the Void, a big fan. And I guess we're going to dive into gut hell, the people's guts tonight. So it'll be an interesting episode.
Yeah, I've had some health issues of myself, and I know, like I told Alex, the one thing I don't get into is conspiracy, but I gotta believe that either the people that are putting this stuff in us, they really, really don't care, or there is some type of conspiracy to kill us, man, because the more you look into this stuff, it's scary. And I was reading something the other night, and I don't know if it was 3, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure I am, but it was either 3 pounds or 3 ounces of natural, I guess, good bacteria that the human body has in it, and based on what we eat, it takes out like 1.5 pounds or ounces. I probably got the measurement wrong, but it was a rough estimate that I read anyways. That's kind of freaky. I mean, people are losing their gallbladders left and right. It's a common surgery to drop, just cut that out of there. We don't need it. Appendix, get rid of that. And I think somebody's killing us, man. I think somebody's trying to kill us for real. It feels like it.
I mean, Joe, I definitely, agree with you on that standpoint, that I think it's a soft kill with what they put in our food and our water. And I do believe that it is a conspiracy that reaches the highest levels of the government, because if not, it's extremely it's unexcusable. Unexcusable if it's not. How can these people, the organizations, whether it's the FDA or the EPA, how can they be, or even the USDA, how can they be ignorant enough to not know exactly some of the additives that have been put in the food, or the water? For example, with water, either in local municipalities using chloramine instead of chlorine, which would have a direct effect on the bacteria within our gut, because you're consuming chlorinated ammonia, which is very hard to filter out or decontaminate. It takes special filters to do so, where chlorine is very easy to get out of the water supply. Activated charcoal filters, you can buy $20 at Walmart and hook it up to your tap. We take out most of the chlorine out of your water, but chloramine, on the other hand, it won't. And especially when you're taking a shower and you're breathing that in, and it affects the lung microbiome, because the entire body in itself has its own microbiome. No part of you is sterile. For years they thought that there were certain parts of the body that were sterile, that the womb was sterile, that your urine was sterile, and the bladder was sterile to some degree, unless it had an infection, or the stomach was sterile, because the pH of stomach acid being so low, hydrochloric acid, nothing could grow or live in the stomach, to your brain being sterile. And now, through the magic of modern research, we've come to find out that there are microorganisms living on every part of your body. And you were correct earlier. We do lose a lot of people don't realize a lot of their stool, other than being what they ate and drank, and some of the other waste too that the body gets rid of through the stool, through their daily bowel movement. A lot of it is just made up of dead organisms that have died within your digestive tract,
which shouldn't be dead.
A large amount.
Right.
No, it's normal. It's normal for us to pass. Yeah, it's normal for us to pass dead organisms. But you definitely are right, and I do agree with you that people losing their appendix and gallbladders in an alarming rate in our modern world. For example, appendicitis is more than likely a first world condition, stemming from us sitting on the toilet instead of squatting when we defecate. You don't see appendicitis very often in Africa, for example. Around the African tribesmen or the South American tribesmen, you don't really see it. Because a lot of them still squat. So when you squat, you have a correct anal rectal angle, and it takes pressure off your puborectalis muscle, so it kind of loosens up, so you become less constipated. Over time, or if we sit on the porcelain throne, as they say, it kind of pushes that upwards. So you have to strain a little bit more to use the bathroom, even if you're not constipated.
So is it bad to sit in chairs a lot then? Is that just as bad?
It can put some pressure on the puborectalis muscle, yes. That's why it's good to walk around and to move around every so often. I mean, I'm a blogger and a researcher, so I spend a lot of my time and sitting in a chair, and I know you do too as well, Joe. And, because of that, it can have an effect on digestion. It can lead to increased risk of constipation, because our bowels move more when we're up and moving. Our lymphatic system also moves more when we're up and moving too. Even though prior research, you thought your lymphatic system doesn't move very much when you're stationary, and that's not true. Actually, research shows that it still does move. But yeah, I mean, sedentary lifestyle has an effect on bowel transit time and whether you're constipated or not. But studies have shown that if you exercise a lot, it doesn't really have that much of an increased effect. It has an effect if a sedentary person starts walking around a lot, maybe walks 6,000 to 10,000 steps a day. They didn't do previously. It would have effect on your bowel transit time and probably help relieve constipation. That is like a squatty potty too.
You know what freaks me out, and this is something you and I have talked about. Being a radio show host is not healthy. And when I say that, I don't mean that it's a choice to exercise. It's a choice to move around. Absolutely. But in this industry, I've met some people face to face that I was like, man, if my health gets that bad, somebody stop me, almost in a manner of like not looking down on it, but thinking that would never happen to me. Well,
like Clyde Lewis. I mean, we talked about Clyde. Yeah. I've been following Clyde for years, and he really did gain a lot of weight. He's had a lot of health issues with cancer too, and everything. It's just crazy.
And so I've gained, I would say 40 pounds in the last 2 years, and I've had some health issues, which is another reason why I believe what you're saying. And I'm thinking, man, what if I would have started, and I want to get into the whole consciousness conspiracy stuff here in just a second. But I want to say, like, if you're in your 20s or if you're young and you're listening to this show and you want to live longer, as far as health-wise goes, I really believe that based on all of these studies, that it's in the gut, man. Like, you got to take care of the stuff. And, we don't grow our food like we should. No. I mean, in a utopian society, everybody in the neighborhood would just come together and grow a awesome organic garden. And there are places that do that, but we have this idea that it's not a good idea to do because it's not convenient, because we live in a fast-paced world. But I know it sounds crazy, but what if they made that to where we did that, where all communities across the world, especially in suburban areas or rural, even further out, had like a community garden where and I don't want to sound like a hippie here, but it would make us live longer, No,
I definitely agree. And I mean, the main issues that we have with our modern convenience, which comes both with good and bad things, especially if people are listening, the younger you are, the more you'll get out of this, is there's 3 easy things that you can do to help with your health now. The first being is to avoid as much artificial light as possible and get proper sunlight within reason. That's a main problem that we have within our modern life, being under fluorescent lighting, not being out sun as much. There's actually studies that show that sunlight, though, UVB increases vitamin D, the spring, summer, midday sun. For most people within the United States, if you live in Florida, you can make vitamin D year round. But a lot of people don't realize it also has an effect on our microbiome. It increases probiotic firmicutes and decreases bacteroids, gram-negative bacteroids that it seems that sunlight can affect our gut just by getting proper light exposure on the skin. So, yeah, I mean, blocking blue light at night. You'll see some people who will put special filters on their computer screens to reduce blue light, to give it an orange tint, or wear blue light blocking glasses at night and trying to sleep in total darkness. And then when you wake up during the day, trying to get exposed to sun, maybe if you have an office, opening up your windows and letting sunlight in, all that is paramount for health. We're just not doing it in our modern worlds, and we're suffering because of it, because we are electrochemical beings, and a lot of our bacteria and microorganisms, they are too. So they react to this light. Artificial light, they can actually react in negative ways. So as far as causing dysbiosis and infections. That's the first thing. The second thing, of course, is to try to eat more of a natural organic diet if all possible. Make sure that you get enough proper seafood ingestion in for omega-3 fatty acids to reduce inflammation. And then to help protect, especially with the light too, to help protect against 5G that's going to be rolled out here soon, and its ability to hinder mitochondrial function. There's been a lot of people talked about it, like Jack Cruz.
The hell out of me, John.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be as bad as everybody's going to say it is, but I don't think it's going to be as safe as a lot of engineers say that 4G and or 5 gigahertz routers are safe. I think it all comes at a biological cost for modern convenience. Huh. So, I do think it's a problem. It's something that 5G is an issue, and people should prepare themselves for it.
The way people are talking about it is that we're going to be living inside of a microwave without being cooked.
Yeah, I do think it will be like that to some degree, but, some people go as far as to say that it'll be a total control grid, that it'll control thought and stuff like that, and I just don't think it's going to be that dystopian. Not to say that it couldn't be, as I am a conspiracy researcher, but I do think that's probably going to be a mix, and I do think it's going to have negative health repercussions. 4G does. I don't even have a router in my house. I do use a cell phone, but I have an EMF case on it, and try to turn off the mobile data when I can to reduce my exposure to it. But it does have an effect. EMF does have an effect on the microbiome. There are quite a few studies show that it affects, it decreases probiotic bacteria, it increases opportunistic bacteria. For example, like H. pylori, that would be able to survive the radiation a little bit better, or spore-forming bacteria into spores like Clostridium difficile. That a lot of people get C. diff infections in hospitals. C. diff is very, very hardy when it is endospore form. Heck, it could survive being outside in space, blasted by the EMF from the sun. Right. They did space studies. It can survive for quite a long time. So that's the issue. So getting a proper sunlight exposure and proper sleep hygiene and eating low mercury seafood, if all possible, wild caught seafood. Those are things that help protect us against this EMF radiation. And of course, the final thing is more of, I guess, the spiritual or esoteric side, and that's just to try to enjoy life the best that you can and try not to worry as much and get angry as much, which I know is a new age belief, but that has effect on our gut too as well.
Well, just so people know real quick that the people that want to know why John has all this information is, at the last time you were on the show, we went into the story of how you lost your child, and you went into, it was very hard to hear, but it was important and a very important message. And to this day, I still can't imagine what you went through, but you were relentless at trying to solve what was going on. And you found out basically that our health system just does things by protocol. They're book taught, and they just do things by computers and protocol, versus you went much deeper and started finding real problems with what was going on. And it took you a while to even convince them to do the stuff they needed to do. And that kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, modern medicine, I don't think your average doctor is in this huge conspiracy, okay? But if you look at the top of the pharmaceutical companies and the FDA and the government and stuff like that, then by all means, there's definitely a conspiracy. There was a conspiracy with Rockefeller Medicine when it was founded, when they destroyed the naturopathic colleges with the Flexner report back in the early 1900s. It is messed up and from the top down to some degree. But like I said, not all doctors are bad. A lot of them, majority of them want their patients to get better. Some of them are just in it for the money, but not all of them. They can say the same thing about naturopathic doctors. My main issue with them is a lot of them don't look at the research. They only go by what they were taught in medical school and what the computer tells them to do. And without looking at the newest research that's up, to be up to date on, like H. pylori, Barry Marshall was an Australian researcher that did studies of H. pylori in the mid-'80s. And no one would believe him that it was a cause of ulcers, the main cause of gastric ulcers. Of course, there are other ones like NSAID use, like ibuprofen, if you take too much ibuprofen. There are other causes, but H. pylori seems to be one of the main causes. Back then, they thought the main cause of ulcers were stress. Well, Barry Marshall drank a concoction of H. pylori that he had made, and a culture, and he got ulcers. And he documented it and everything, and they still did not believe him. Really until it was accepted medical practice to start testing and tackling H. pylori in the United States in early 2000. It took 15 years from research to clinical practice. And it's the same with ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease being caused by a microbacterium known as Mycobacterium avium tuberculosis that's found in ruminant animal products and dairy. They still treat it as an autoimmune condition, but both those conditions are caused by that same mycobacterium. And I've had close friends of mine who have gave up ruminant animal products. They haven't done this other things like take some supplements and change their lifestyle and stuff, where their ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease have gone into complete remission, including people that I have coached, which most of the medical profession thinks is almost impossible.
Well, what I'm getting from the medical profession, I guess you could say, and some of these guys, is that they believe that supplementation is unnecessary, that it's redundant to a point. And I do not agree with that. And I'll tell you why. Not based on books, but my experience of losing organs. I don't believe it. Supplementation saves us a lot of times from this crap, don't you think?
Oh, very much so. And I'm not against conventional medicine. I do believe conventional medicine does work really well in acute situations. For example, if I get in a car accident, though I think supplements may help me, they're not going to save my life as I'm bleeding to death. So I do think that the conventional medicine is needed. They are decent, somewhat at diagnostic medicine if they know what the heck they're doing or what they're looking at. And they are good at emergency medicine. I do think that's where they are definitely necessary. And I do think that they are horrible at chronic conditions, mostly. And I do think that they are horrible in, like you said, surgeons taking out organs, saying they don't really have a necessary of the body, but they do. The gallbladder does. It times bile release, and it stores bile. The appendix serves multiple purposes: as a safe storage house for bacteria. When you have food poisoning, you have diarrhea, you flush a lot of your good bacteria out. When that happens, the bacteria are able to come out of the appendix and populate. Like I mentioned earlier, the main cause of appendicitis is long-term constipation. And they actually had studies now where they found out that you could just give the antibiotic Xifaxan, which is not that bad of an antibiotic, to people with appendicitis, and they don't have to have their appendixes removed. It works 80 to 90% of the time.
I wish I still had my organs. Give me my organs back.
I wish I still had my appendix. I really do, but I wish I still had my adenoids, but I don't.
Talk to me a little bit about do you know anything about the fluoride conspiracy, the whole pineal gland thing? Do you know anything about that?
Very much so. Yeah. What about it?
Well, I'm curious because it's a conspiracy theory that I looked away from. I didn't look away from it because I didn't believe it. I looked away from it because I wasn't interested in it at the time. I was interested in trying to learn about consciousness, but now that I'm practicing consciousness, trying to do things and get myself into certain states of awareness, I'm wondering if it's made difficult sometimes for some people because we have calcified our pineal glands. And I don't know.
Yeah, there is some. The pineal gland in some people may calcify over a period of time, just like the thymus turns into fat. But fluoride does accelerate the calcification of the pineal gland. There's no doubt about that. It does a lot of negative things when it comes to health. I don't believe in the ingestion of fluoride at all. I don't think it should be added to the water for public health. I don't think it should. Even when it's added to the water public health, most of the time they add too much in it. They've had to reduce the recommendations of how much fluoride's put into the water. Because you got to remember, there's fluoride in food. If you're drinking a lot of tea naturally has natural calcium fluoride in it. So if you're drinking a lot of tea, you're brushing your teeth with toothpaste that has fluoride in it, and you're consuming fluoride water, which is unregulated. As far as the amount of water that you're taking in for a day, the amount of fluoride they put in is regulated. When you add all those three things together, you're probably getting more fluoride than is allowed on a daily basis. There have been studies on that have shown that. So it's not like if your only source of fluoride was your daily toothbrushing, then it wouldn't be that bad. But if you're ingesting food that naturally have fluoride in it, you're drinking water with fluoride, added fluoride to it, and you're brushing your teeth twice a day with fluorinated toothpaste, it's a problem. You can start causing dental fluorinosis, which in itself can weaken the teeth enamel over time. It can cause pitting. I'm not really for the use of fluoride in any capacity. I think the use of xylitol, which they use in Europe instead of fluoride, which is a sugar alcohol, and a lot of the opportunistic bacteria in the mouth, like Streptococcus mutans, cannot metabolize xylitol, so it has kind of like an antibiofilm effect, and they can't survive. That works.
I thought that was something Jim Carrey made up. That's a real thing.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
But yeah, the bacteria, doing xylitol, it works really well. So most people, when I recommend, if they try to filter out their water the best they can to avoid fluoride by using like a reverse osmosis filter, as well as as far as using for toothpaste, they use like a natural toothpaste like Earth Paste that has xylitol and bentonite clay for oral health, and they chew xylitol gum, and maybe they do oil pulling, and from that, as long as you're doing that, maybe getting vitamin A from cod liver oil and vitamin K too, source of like goat cheese, your teeth should be relatively healthy, and you shouldn't really run into any cavities unless you're guzzling down gallons of soda, both the sugar and the acid will wear down your teeth. But yeah, fluoride is definitely, I would consider it to be a poison and doesn't have any benefit for humans whatsoever.
So if you guys want to be healthy and live a little bit longer and, be able to do these consciousness, to be able to, what we call on this show, effective explorers of consciousness, I think your gut health matters. I wonder, if some people are asking, why are you talking about gut health on Lighting the Void? I'll tell you why. Because those states of consciousness that we try to get into matters. Our health has to matter. If we're not resting properly, if we're not healthy enough, we're not going to be able to explore the way we want to explore. Now, one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to get you on the show is because you're a big conspiracy guy, and I'm not playing when I say that. You've researched tons of stuff about several conspiracies, and we've went back and forth in the chat rooms on it, you and I. And it seems to me that you can document pretty much everything you talk about, whether it's actual video footage or documents or whatever. So, now I don't want you to be afraid, and I know you're not afraid, but I want you to tell me what you think is the biggest conspiracy going right now, the biggest conspiracy that's happening that is true.
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a good question.
I'll let you sit on it for a second because I know it's a tough question. Because, you've talked to me about a little bit about black magic in Hollywood. You've talked to me about the pedophilia rings. You've talked to me about a lot of things.
We can talk about the hoax that is known as QAnon, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, that's something that, I had some people really, man, lash out at me when I even said that can't really be, that may not be true. People got behind it like a religious belief.
Well, they're trying to push it now that I saw the newest video from some guy who came out of nowhere named Law Johnston talking about 4chan and 8chan. It was an operation on those boards to do QAnon. And I've been following QAnon since the very beginning. I used to browse 4chan and 8chan a lot, not so much anymore. But yeah, it seems to me that with the circles of people that it seems to be in, it seems to be, I think, directed by Michael Flynn and his connections with the Council of National Policy, the same with Trump, as an operation on the American people to get them to accept FEMA camps in a way they would never accept them before. Alex Jones has been pushing FEMA camps lately in Rex 84, saying that he was mistaken about being FEMA camps were part of the globalists. So, yeah, I find it very interesting about QAnon, about how you're supposed to trust the plan and sit back and everything. But if you really look into it, Trump's not our guy. I voted for Trump, and I was wrong to vote for Trump. And his connections with Epstein, his connections with Russia are actually turned out to be somewhat true. His connections with Chabalovich, connections with Jeffrey Epstein, which I used to say that there was nothing there, but then upon actually looking at the research, it turns out there was things there, a lot of things with his modeling agency and everything. So yeah, the problem with Q is Q usually only attacks the Clinton cabal and people associated with the Clinton cabal, like John McCain, George W. Bush. The people that George H.W. Bush, the people that people generally think are evil. But talking about none of the atrocities of people that around themselves with Trump or Trump himself. And it's very disturbing that they played this operation on the American people. George Webb, like him or hate him, I don't trust everything George Webb says. He lines himself with the Mossad. He mentioned that Q-tubers through Jerome Corsi was part of the Council for National Policy, too. He's been in the Council for National Policy for years, former InfoWars correspondent to D.C., that Corsi was paying people $3,000, offering them $3,000 for, I think it was $9,000 total for 3 months for doing shows on InfoWars to spread the gospel of Q. And I think that's where a lot of people like Jordan Sather show up, and Tracy Beans and Praying Medic. Some of them I think they're useless dupes and they don't know any better, but a lot of them are getting paid kickbacks. They're getting paid. And I do honestly believe when they talk about Q, the president knows about Q. I think he does. I just don't think that it's in the benefit of what we, thinking about that, Trump's a white hat or whatever. I think that Trump's aware of the Q operation. I think Michael Flynn is the head of the Q operation, and I think it is run by the NSA. I do agree with Q-tubers when they talk about that. But I think it is the biggest scam job that is being pushed on the American public today, because they're being taught that this other side of the cabal, the Council for National Policy instead of the Council on Foreign Relations, which Clinton's about and Obama's about, and all the communists and the global leftists that you hear about, you're not hearing about the other coin. I mean, Josh Reeves is the only person I knew that talked about the Council for National Policy.
He was the first person to talk about it.
No, Peter Del Scott was, and that was who Josh learned from, was Peter Del Scott. But
he's the first person I heard talk about it back in the early 2000s. He was the first person I
heard too, and I thought it was bullcrap, Joe. When I was first presented, my co-host Titus Wilson of my show, we read the documents on Grimerica's Black Budget. He brought me the information of Josh Reeves' information back in 2016 when Trump was running, and I just completely dismissed it. I was like, "There's no way this is real." And then when I go back and actually watch it and actually listen to it, I said, "Holy crap! I've been lied to this whole entire time."
Right.
How could I have been fooled? All these people I thought were truth tellers, Alex Jones, part of the Council for National Policy, and, Jeff Rentz and his alignment with the Council for National Policy, having people like Joel Skousen on, W. Cleon Skousen. Joel Skousen's uncle helped found the Council for National Policy and was part of the John Birch Society. All these, I was just blown away. So that's my biggest issue with all this.
Let's do this. We're going to take a break, but I want to focus on that. And keep in mind, if you guys, and we'll talk about that when we come back, about Josh Reeves and digital radio and the Council for National Policy, because it's something that you don't hear people talking about anymore. They don't talk about it. And I think especially if you don't believe in conspiracies at all, I think that it's important that John kind of helps us start from here so you can understand, because I brought it up on the show as well. But we'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break. Stick around.
Out there. There's something out here. And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Light in the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your northern self and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and family with what it needs. Give it a new smart Wave ventilation unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Greetings, galactic community. This is Suzanne Ross, host of Sci-Spy Radio, every Wednesday evening from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific. Join me for this brand new show featuring a revolutionary new genre, Sci-Spy, merging science and spirituality to give us answers to the greatest mysteries of creation. Together, scientific discovery and spiritual revelation reveal the truth about who we are, where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going. Tune in to Sci-Spy Radio every Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific and discover the truth for yourself at thefringe.fm.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Hi folks, it's a holiday season with hope in the air. Things to look forward to and no time for despair. Health can be a challenge, and so can the mail. So Get the Tea wants to help you by giving you a sale. Buy 2 months of Super Tea and get 1 month for free. No limit. That's buy 2 months of Super Tea and get 1 month free. That's a savings of $35. Where? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Scroll down on the front page and find the buy 2, get 1 free ad. Click it and save. Orders over $100 get free shipping. Send the gift of life. Change tea at GetTheTea.com. We have many, many non-GMO organic supplements just waiting for you. This holiday season, enjoy health and Thanksgiving with GetTheTea.com. Want to call us? 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. GetTheTea.com is a proud sponsor of Doing What's Right. That's GetTheTea.com.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. The Fringe FM loves hearing from you. Have a suggestion, comment, or question? We're all ears. Email talkback@thefringe.fm. Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm. Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We're here with John Brisson from FixYourGut.com. We just got through talking to Alex Tsakaris from Skeptiko, the Skeptiko podcast. And tonight we're going to go down the conspiracy road with probably one of the only, I guess I could say, friends I have that are really well studied on this. And if you guys want to live longer, okay, and if you want to be able to explore consciousness better, you got to take care of your health. And I really believe half your health is all that stuff that comes from your gut. So go over to FixYourGut.com, check it out, get the book, grab some stuff, and then tell us how you feel afterwards. It'll take a little time, but you'll start to feel better. Now, here's something I want to talk about, John. The whole reason why I got into digital radio to begin with. The first digital radio show that I heard that I became addicted to was The Global Reality by Josh Reeves. Josh Reeves, the host. Back in, I think it was maybe the early 2000s. And I was so interested in consciousness that he would talk about these things. He would do the readings of, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and Manly P. Hall readings.
And he was really well versed at putting things together and opening up your mind to something that's really going on. And back then he used to tell me, I'm under psychic attack, this and that, the server's being shut down. And I used to just think this guy is a little bit paranoid, but I'm learning all kinds of stuff from him. However, later on in life, you realize that his servers really were getting shut down. And just to prove a point on that, I asked him to be a part of this network. Just do a show, any show. I don't care. Come on here. We'll run your show. And he thought about it, and he's like, you know what, man, I really don't think it's a good idea because I don't want to endanger your servers. So he wanted to do it at first. So there's another thing that validated it for me. But one of the biggest conspiracies that he talked about that I checked out was the Council for National Policy, which is something that I think we don't talk about anymore because it's old hat. But is it really old hat? And do we really understand what was going on? Because it could be the fundamental basis of what all of this conspiracy stuff is about today.
Very much so, Joe. I mean, when we look at the Council for National Policy and who Trump surrounds himself with, and Josh is still talking about them off and on to this day. And I've done my own research significantly in the founding of the Council of National Policy. It was founded in the early 1980s by Tim LaHaye. Of course, his Left Behind series with the Hunt brothers that had oil barons from Texas that had a role in the JFK assassination. They put up the wanted for treason posters around Dallas right before the assassination of JFK. And, of course, there were many other people, too, that helped founded the CNP back then, back in the early 80s. But, yeah, like you said, most people think that the old hat, George W. Bush, he definitely was put up front by the CNP and vote rigging by the Diebold machines down there in Florida, allegedly by one Kenneth Blackwell, former mayor of Cincinnati in Ohio. So, we look at Trump, and you got to look at, well, who has Trump surround himself with? And Josh, I remember listening to him when he first got on radio talking about, I actually listened to Global Rally way farther past than you did, started listening to it about 2016. I went back and listened to when he was talking about, Josh was talking about Trump. And the first episode that he talked about Trump, he was actually it was after, I think Trump was on one of the debates. I don't remember exactly which one of the Republican debates. He was talking about 9/11. And Trump was Josh was a little bit optimistic on Trump. And then by the next episode, when he did some research and looked at who Trump had started to surround himself and stuff like that, he was like, nope, he's part of the Council for National Policy. Trump's screwed. We can't have any, we shouldn't believe in, he's definitely not going to help us any at all. It was like literally the next week. And I have to definitely give props to Josh on that to figure that out, because that was an extremely quick turnaround to realize that Trump was not our guy. Heck, it took me, I voted for him, so it took me about a good year and a half before I realized that Trump was not our guy. So if we look at the people who have been in, let's look at the people who have been in Trump's cabinet or who Trump has surrounded himself that have been in the CNP or have given speeches to the CNP. So we got Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos. She is in the CNP. At least she was back when the Southern Poverty Law Center. And I know some people are going to get some cringes about this, but they linked the 2014 CNP membership list, and the CNP's never denied it. So Betsy DeVos, she is in the CNP, and of course Eric Princess, too, the founder of Blackwater. Her brother is in the CNP. Benjamin Carson has spoken to the CNP. Of course, Trump's head of HUD. Ben Carson spoke with the CNP. Michael Flynn spoke many times to the CNP. Jeff Sessions spoke many times to the CNP. Trump's former Attorney General. Mike Pence has spoke many times in the CNP. Trump's vice president. Rick Perry, Department of Energy, head Department of Energy. He spoke many times to the CNP. Nikki Haley, who's leaving the UN, she spoke many times to the CNP as well. Mick Mulvaney, he spoke many times. Scott Pruitt is also. Ken Blackwell was running the the stop voter fraud of illegal immigrants with, what's his name? Chris Kobach from Kansas. Ken Blackwell has been in the CNP for years. So all these people that are part of Trump's cabinet or with him, of course, two other people is Steve Bannon. He was in the CNP 2004 list, and so was Kellyanne Conway. So Trump is definitely a part of the Council for National Policy. There is no doubt about it.
Well, I just got an email about, who's the Council for National Policy, and I knew this was going to happen. All right, so the Council for National Policy, and I'm just going straight from good old Wikipedia here, and then we'll get into the conspiracy stuff and the stuff I learned from my cousin that validated some of the stuff Reeves was talking about. But what they say is that they're an umbrella organization and networking group for social conservative activists in the U.S. The New York Times calls it a little-known club of a few hundred of the most powerful conservatives in the country who meet 3 times yearly behind closed doors at undisclosed locations for a confidential conference. Now, when we talk about JFK and his speech on secrecy, I know a lot of people are thinking it's Freemasons, and I know, John, you probably do too, and I'm sure Josh does. I don't necessarily believe that.
I think Freemasonry has a part in it, like Mystery Babylon, like Bill Cooper, but I don't think that they are the head of the top of the snake or the top of the pyramid. No.
Exactly right. And so here's an organization behind closed doors, knowingly behind closed doors, moving power around that you guys have no idea what these people move around based on just a meeting that these guys do, or what they can do to hell the economy and everything else. Not to mention, they're also known for recovering artifacts in Iraq. That's the thing that really got me is when Josh started talking about that. He started saying, why does Dick Cheney have all of these, Sumerian stuff, and that they're pretty much kidnapping all these artifacts from this place, which went way back, goes back to the consciousness stuff. My cousin, who's in the military, I've got a couple cousins in the military, but validated the playing card thing for me that Josh was talking about, how they had playing cards. I think it was Josh that would have the terrorist leaders on it. And once the war was over, then they had playing cards with, symbols and artifacts. And if you see anything like this, report it to your CO. And I asked him why they're doing that, and he said, well, I don't know. All I know is that we would report it, and then a crew would come and pretty much clean the place up. Now, what the hell were these people that are supposed to be a social conservative activist doing with this stuff?
Yeah, like I mentioned, Blackwater was a part of it. I mean, I could name some famous people that were in the Council for National Policy. There was General John K. Singlaw. Of course, he was originally in the OSS and was eventually one of the founders of the CIA and part of Iran-Contra. There was Pat Robertson of Christian Broadcasting Network, Jerry Falwell, former U.S. Senator Trent Lott, Oliver North, of course, Iran-Contra, Larry Pratt, Gunners of America. Alex Jones has his own ties into the Council for National Policy as well. There's a YouTuber, R. Wayne Steiger. He does a lot of mysticism and a lot of religion. He's Gold Circle member CMP. A lot of people aren't aware of that, so I wanted to make note of that. The Regnery family that owns Regnery Publishing, that pushes a lot of white nationalist ideals. They are also part of the Council for National Policy.
Christian Broadcasting Network, not to mention that, so-called Christian Broadcasting Network.
Stuart Epperson and broadcasting out of Winston-Salem and pushing people like, what's his name? Prager, Dennis Prager, his connections to the CNP. Mark Levin was on one of the CNP lists back in the late 90s. So all these connections, I mean, they are one of the only true things that ever came out of Hillary Clinton's mouth is that they are the vast white ring conspiracy. They were at a CNP meeting who concocted to go after and try to impeach Bill Clinton over Monica Lewinsky. Of course, we know Bill Clinton's crimes are way numerous more than Monica Lewinsky, whether it's the alleged rape of many women, whether it's Mena, Arkansas, whether it's the Clinton Foundation, whether it's pilfering money out of Haiti. I mean, there's so many crimes that the Clintons have both allegedly have done. But yeah, I mean, Council for National Policy is pretty much a nationalist right-wing organization and is the antithesis or the opposite of the Council on Foreign Relations, which is more of a leftist communist organization. And people think that, a lot of the people within the CNP are truth tellers or relation to CNP, like Ron Paul. Ron Paul is very big in the Council for National Policy. Alex Jones, and these are people that are pushing, especially Alex Jones is pushing for this pro-FEMA camps. He was, Reagan was a good president, Oliver North was good, Rex 84 was good, all this horse crap that we know is lies, Alex Jones is pushing it, and it's all coming from the Council for National Policy. Thank you for being exposed, mainly by Josh Reeves.
Right.
To a lot of people with his work with that. And I've done a lot of my own research on the Council for National Policy separate from Josh. And Josh hopefully will one day update The Secret Right, hopefully with another volume with more information that's come out about the CNP. Heck, a lot of people don't realize that the CNP had a meeting not too long ago that had Nikki Haley at it. And it was actually on the Drudge Report. I was taken back when the Drudge Report just posted it nonchalantly down at the bottom. And it was, of course, an article that was put out by Blumenthal. I think it was a controlled article. And, of course, Herman Cain was there. It's funny. Josh Reeves always said you can tell who's high up in the CNP when you ask them about it, when they pretty much deny knowing about the organization or whatever. But if it's someone who runs their mouth like Herman Cain does in every interview, Herman Cain's probably not too high up in the CNP.
Okay, well, just so people know about this, so we don't keep this political, but it's important that these figures are there. Is Josh was also one of the first people that I heard talk about that some of these people were reptilian shapeshifters,
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, damn, that's a big statement, right? Reptilian shape. You go from policy people that have influence to governments and stuff that they have a big influence, and governments and media, broadcasting, all of that. And he was the first person I ever heard talk about reptilian shapeshifters. And I was always trying to tie that together in my mind first, which I never really could do until I did the studies about all of the symbolism and esoteric stuff they were interested in and hiding from everybody,
Yeah, I mean, not to keep this political, people always say, well, John, why do you harp on the Council for National Policy so much and not talk about the globalists and the CFR?
Yeah,
that's because everybody else does it. Everybody else does it. We all know the crimes of the Clintons. I all know the crimes of George Soros. I know the crimes of the Bush family. They're numerous, and they're not getting off the hook by me. But a lot of people don't realize that the Council for National Policy is running things right now. They're running things with Trump in office, and Trump, as much as, okay, at least with Trump, I don't regret voting for him in that he's entertaining. Okay, I don't think Hillary Clinton would be entertaining. Trump still makes me laugh from time to time, even if it makes me feel sick to my stomach. But the CNP's done a lot of things. They ran Contra. They ran Franklin cover-up. They ran drug running, kid running, and gun running in the 1980s with all those connections between Iran Contra, crack cocaine in Los Angeles, and Franklin. So the thing is my always problem is Josh named his movies The Secret Right. And doesn't that speak volumes? Well, we have membership lists of the Council on Foreign Relations and information about their meetings that's self-published by the CFR, okay? We have no idea who's currently in this Council for National Policy. Nothing. No, we
so we don't know who's in there now? All I see is that they say there's over 600 members, which I'm sure
I've gotten some information from my own research of leaked itineraries and letters that have been signed towards President Trump over Kavanaugh that has some of the modern members in it, yes. But as of right now, we don't have any official list since 2014.
So let's just think about this for a second. The Council for National Policy, which that ought to be the drink word for this past 30 minutes, is pushing a conservative, and I would even dare to say a conservative Christian movement, because they got so many Christian organizations involved in what they're doing, yet are obsessed with Sumerian and what Christians would call pagan artifacts of esoteric nature.
I say their Christianity is false with who they have in it, and they don't represent true Christianity. And I think, you know, when you look at who's in the CMP, you have Orthodox Jews and the Chabad Lubavitch Masonic cult. You have Messianic Christians within the Council for National Policy, if you're looking at it strictly from a religious point of view. And when you have both of those combined, you're absolutely right. They're looking for these heresy, based on what you call heresy religion and heresy artifacts. You know, Josh Reeves talked about how they controlled the rock wall down there in Texas, too. And they're controlling a lot of artifacts and places of interest within America, too, through his Lost Secrets of Ancient America series. So it's not just there over there; it's here too. You know, and I think it's both sides. And a lot of people say, "Well, is it a fight between the communists and the CFR and the nationalists and the CMP, or are they all united at the top?" And Josh Reeves always said they're united at the top, and I really do think that occasionally they might get into squabbles, but they are united at the top, Jeff.
Another thing that people don't want to talk about is, when I say black magic, I'm talking about, okay, well, I'm going to be real clear here because I don't want to scare people about magic, but I do want people to understand that there are books and there are things where they talk about human sacrifice and the power of blood sacrifice. And I'm not, you know, I've always wanted to kind of share the document so I could show people, but then again, I don't even think that's smart because I don't want people... you never know what people are going to do.
Yeah, and I've talked about it on our show. We went over the history of ancient and modern ritual abuse and child sacrifice.
Yeah, and so what happens is that, you know, a lot of anybody that practices magic, mysticism, esoteric, or they tend to get lumped into all this stuff. And what I think a lot of conspiracy people believe, and I think they have every right to believe it, is that when you join a society like the Freemasons or maybe Rosicrucian Society, that it starts out all, you know, giddy and googly and white magic, and then you just go down the road and it's all spiritual. But then when you get to these higher degrees, you're going to get tricked into doing something that, you know, you didn't know, but you were worshiping Lucifer or something. And that's out of context. I don't think people really know who Lucifer really is, but I don't know who he really is. I just know the story we've been given isn't right. So the reason why I want to be careful about all this is because I want people to know that it's real and that it's been done, but also that I believe it's been done by people that have power like this. And I know that sounds crazy. I don't want to sound like Alex Jones screaming it, but it may not be done to that extent. You know, it may not be done to the extent that he screams about it, but it's definitely happened. And that's what we're trying to get down to the truth of.
I disagree with you, Joe. I think it happens as much as he's screaming that it is. The only problem is Alex Jones doesn't tell you the whole truth, and he's full of bull crap. I mean, I'm not saying that I know the full truth either. Far from it. I know. I find the more I research, the less I know every day.
Yeah.
But that being said, though, I'm pretty darn sure through all my research, and that's what the first season of my podcast, We Read the Documents, is going to be about, is exploring ritual child abuse and child sacrifice throughout history. We've just gone through the major religions and stuff like that. We're now moving into stuff that's happened in the 1900s. The next thing is going to be the Children of God cult, that we're going to have a couple episodes on the Franklin cover-up and so forth and so on. But yeah, I think that child ritual, sexual abuse, and dark magic is definitely there, and it definitely goes on, and it's definitely a part of the elite. A lot of them practice it. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. And I do think a lot of these secret societies, whether it's the Masons or the Rosicrucians, you know, a lot of people that join to them, they don't know really what goes up on the top. And that's not every top of these organizations either. A lot of them have been infiltrated. But, you know, William Cooper's talked a lot about that. And, you know, and I do agree with him with his Mystery Babylon series. And I do agree with Josh Reeves that I do think at the very top of a majority of these organizations, especially organizations like the Jesuits, I mean, we have a Jesuit Pope right now that's probably practicing a lot of evil within the world.
I'm but getting some heavy background noise there. It's kind of knocking your voice out a little bit. Just letting you know.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know exactly what's going on.
That's all right. I can hear you. Go ahead.
But yeah, I definitely agree with you that everybody lumps all magic into being evil, and though myself personally, I don't practice magic, I do know of it, and I do know of what people practice. And I guess some people say because I pray or because I have intent that it is a form of magic, and I can see that. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Is people forget, like to say that all magic is evil just as much as they like to say no magic is evil.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's my point is, and I know you may have some disagreements about some of the magicians that we've had on this show, but a real advanced magician will tell you there really is no black or white magic. And what they mean by that is it's kind of like there really is no gravity, I mean, or not there is gravity, but there really is no morality to it until you make a dark choice. So it's kind of like picking up a gun. You got gun, now you have power, something that you have somebody that's somebody else doesn't. It's very hard to put symbols to this, but think about taking a gun to the Indians first, that kind of power. You put it in the hands of the right Indian, they're probably going to hunt with it, and it'll help their lives out a little bit better. But you put it in the hands of somebody that only cares about power, what's he going to do? He's going to go around threatening and murdering people. It's the same thing in the esoteric and magic. But what bothers me about this whole CMP thing is why the hell they even care about the stuff in the first place while they're pushing Christian conservatism. Because
you know that they practice. I mean, they do horrible. I mean, with the Franklin cover-up and the amount of pedophilia, sexual abuse, ritual sexual abuse, which I know some people use the word satanic. I like to use the term ritual. They practice evil. They stare at the abyss too long and let them consume themselves. And they're interested in it because they want to hold this knowledge, whether good or bad, away from us because we're too little to be able to understand it.
Right. The first time I got that kidney stone, the first one I got, I was going back and investigating a lot of this old stuff Josh Reeves talked about. And I was investigating the Council for National Policy and was actually watching, I even went back further and I was actually watching the JFK trials, how they have the mock trials verbatim, hours and hours of watching it, and then woke up with a kidney stone the next day and forgot about it. But what I remember is after that, I started listening to the JFK speeches where he was talking about secrecy, and I wanted to make sure, it's like, hey, is he talking about, Freemasons? Is he talked about it in general, but then the way he started talking about power about it, it made me think of the Council for National Policy, and I'll tell you why. Not so much as it's a secret society doing a magic ritual trying to invoke consciousness or an angel or a demon or whatever, but people with power and money that can move our economy just as fast as we can, snap our fingers. People with that kind of power meeting behind closed doors, doing their thing. And remember, he was a Democrat. So I think that these people existed before they made their little group, and he found out about it and just went all out. And the next thing you know, he's out of the picture.
Well, they were who more than likely assassinated him was the John Birch Society, which was before the Council for National Policy, kind of like their grandfather, which of course, Donald Trump's father, Fred Trump, was a member of the John Birch Society. Alex Jones talks about that a lot. So yeah, I definitely 100% agree with you that I believe that they had a huge role in the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Whether it was, and I think it was a combination of a lot of things that got Kennedy assassinated. Bush definitely had a role in it. George H.W. Bush was opportunistic, ultimate opportunist. He played both sides. I do think Nixon had a role. LBJ had a role. There's many different people had a role in the assassination. But the John Birch Society, because they thought and pushed that JFK was a communist and a threat to American society. Heck, we found out in the JFK files that Officer J.D. Tippit was the head of the John Birch Society chapter in Dallas.
Yeah, that's that should have been brought up in court.
Yeah, but
they didn't bring that up.
No. So I definitely agree with you when JFK talked about how we were abhorrent to secret societies. that he was talking about these secret societies, whether it was the John Birch Society, which was more out in the open, but it was still limited to the knowledge of what went on between meetings. And, later the Council for National Policy, and even the CFR, the Bilderberg Group, whatever you want to, Roundtable Group, or the Fabian Socialists, whatever you want to call them. They go by many names, just like the servers of Yabba-Dioff go by many names. You look at the Esoteric, it's the same, go by many names, the same as the government side go by many names. So, yeah, Joe, I definitely wholeheartedly agree with you on that. I never actually really thought of it that way, but you're 100% right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we got to take another break here, but I'm thinking what I want to try to do is talk about this, and I know there's going to be hard to get facts on it, but talk about this alien shapeshifter thing, because we got to talk about it. I want to talk about it because I don't know anybody else besides you or possibly Josh Reeves himself that actually has any type of information that leads to this stuff. Now, I'm not going to put that on you and put that kind of pressure on you and say, put all the pieces together for me, John, and prove that, alien reptilians are real. But I can't think of anybody better at this time to talk about it than you. So I want to bring that up and just talk about that theory, because I have a little bit of a problem with it still, just to be honest with you, man. But I'm very interested in it as well. We'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio, or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Magic, the occult, history, health, news. These are just a few subjects discussed on my radio broadcast, The Secret Teachings. I offer unique and objective perspectives on new and old subjects alike, while welcoming guests and presenting my own research with no filter. Visit my website for more information and to subscribe to my archive at www.thesecretteachings.info, and find me on The Fringe FM live Monday through Friday, midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWERSAVE to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWERSAVE.
Yohoy there. Gigi here.
And I'm Cortana, and we're going to bring you on a journey through all things paranormal, metaphysical, ufology, and even psychedelic on our show,
Shift Happens, live, Fridays at 7 p.m. Pacific. That's 10 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
And remember, kids, don't feed the Archons. Feed ducks instead.
Duck up.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
We have to talk about it. I'm almost to, I think, 250 episodes. Why not? So we have to talk about this reptilian thing. And I'm just going to tell you guys that the first time I ever heard about reptilians or shapeshifters or anything like that, I think it was back in 2008 or 9, listening to The Global Reality with Josh Reeves. And there was 2 things that I would hear him talk about. Reptilians, shapeshifters, and 3 things, and the Council for National Policy, right? That was the one thing that I could not piece together. However, when I did check out all of the stuff that he talked about, this guy's a member of this, these people are doing that, he's got this kind of documents, and he's got these cylinder seals and all of it. When I checked that stuff out, it was true. So how do we piece this together? If it's really true, you know, the whole David Icke thing, is there a way to get real proof of this? And I mean, other than YouTube videos that are showing us stuff that could just be pixelation.
Joe, I don't know. I'm trying to get down to the bottom of it, just like everybody else does. But I as far as Josh Reeves, I mean, I'll talk about my own personal experience in a minute. But yeah, I mean, Josh Reeves talked about one time he went to go see David Icke perform, and how David Icke, like, he went to go sit down for one of his presentations, and Josh Reeves just felt really sick from it and actually had to leave, even though he had paid a lot of money to see the presentation, because, you know, it seemed like David Icke was psychic vampirism, because Josh is very empathetic, and I found that very interesting. And, you know, I actually first heard Reptilians from David Icke, I don't know, like 2012. I didn't start listening to Josh Reeves until about 2016.
Right.
But I went back and listened to Josh Reeves' retrospective, and he talked about meeting Tom DeLay, who was part of the Council for National Policy, at one of his books. Tom DeLay was having a book signings for one of his books. So Josh went there with his sister. He had a sign about 9/11. I don't remember what the sign said. Him and his sister both had a sign, but the signs were
he had a
very
sign
good.
that said Building 7 something controlled demolition.
Yeah, that's right. And his sister had the controlled demolition sign, and he had the Building 7 sign. So anyway, they went to talk with Tom DeLay, and he just remembers talking with DeLay, and DeLay acting very weird and kind of just like looking up and seeing his sign and noticing it, getting scared, and then kind of like snapping into like a robot type mannerism, you know. Well, it's good to see you, you know. And they met him outside of the bookstore. Weren't in the bookstore. They just when he was walking in, and you know, so Tom was like, you know, pretty much. But Josh said he saw like a change in his eyes of how the irises kind of switched to more like a reptilian look compared to a mammalian human look, and kind of shifted back. And he saw that same look when later describes meeting Larry Pratt, who just had gotten him off. Larry Pratt had gotten him off the radio station that they were on because Josh was talking about the CMP, and the same thing kind of happened with Larry Pratt that whole kind of like disconnected robot and kind of like, I don't know, weird like possession type thing. And I actually had it happen to me when I was on I think it was a year ago. I first went on the Higher Side Chats and did my first show talking about the CMP for the second hour. And I was talking about Sebastian Gorka. I happened to go to Baltimore for a vacation. We usually go on vacation around the time that Abel passed away in February to kind of, get away from the house because it's hard to be in here. And I didn't know CPAC was going on at all. I had no idea. So we went to National Harbor to eat. There's a Mexican restaurant. I can't think of the name. It's the Mexican restaurant there now, but they got excellent gluten-free food because I have celiac disease. And it's in the National Harbor. And so I started seeing all these people walking around with like these CPAC bags. And I was like, oh, that's odd. So I Googled CPAC. Well, sure enough, Sebastian Gorka walks into this restaurant. And, I'm sitting there and I'm like, holy crap, it's Sebastian Gorka. I'm freaking out. I just got done talking about him and Council for National Policy and Trump. I'm all like freaking out. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I thought he didn't know me or whatever. But he was talking to some guy at the bar and he was just staring at me when we were waiting for a seat because they were full because of CPAC. And I was trying to figure out why they were full because it was like a weekday night and we had eaten there, a year or two earlier. We went to Washington, D.C. for a trip. And they were empty, So he was just staring at me. He was staring at me so much so, Joe, that my wife, who is not big into conspiracy, she believes a little bit in like the Hollywood type like occult and pedophilia and stuff. But other than that, she really doesn't follow anything else. And she was just like, why is that guy staring at you? Do you know him? And I was like, look, we got to go. We got to leave. So we went to go. We were waiting for a while, too. And I was very uncomfortable. So we went to go eat at the Peri Peri restaurant, chicken restaurant that's down the street in National Harbor. But, yeah, it was just creepy of how he was just staring at me. And it reminded me of the time that Alex Jones went to be at Josh Reeves' premiere for his 9/11 movie before Josh Reeves ever talked about Alex Jones, the Council for National Policy. And Josh Reeves tells this story in his Spellcasters movie of how Alex Jones is just staring at him and eating his dinner at the premiere of the movie, and just like, just staring at Josh. And Josh, thought, Alex Jones was a hero to him at the time. And he's like, why is he grunting? Why is he looking at me weird? Why is he staring at me? And that was the same thing Sebastian Gorka was doing. And I couldn't really get close enough really to see him because he was far away to see his eyes, but he was dead locked, like peering into my soul like he was possessed, Joe. And I think it has to be, I don't know if these people, if they let some entity in that activates the reptilian part of their brain or whatever, or they actually are space alien reptilians from Alpha Centauri or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's just weird if you've never witnessed it. I mean, I thought it was crazy. The thing.
I've never had an experience like that. So I have to take you guys' word for it. And I trust you, man. So I know you're telling me the truth.
Sebastian Gorka on my phone. I can send them to you. I took a picture of them with my phone. But yeah, my wife, that's how I knew. Sometimes I think I'm a little paranoid because I'm a conspiracy researcher, and sometimes I almost wonder if I'm becoming John Nash with all the connections. But when my wife, who's completely grounded, is like, why is that guy staring at you? Then I have to realize that, holy crap, maybe someone on an esoteric plane, he knew who I was and I knew who he was. Whether it's a reptilian or not, or he was possessed by some entity, some demon, I don't know. But I witnessed it. It was scary as hell.
The one thing that I can say is when I hear stuff like this, I know that no one has documented proof about these things. Nobody, right? It's way too hard to get. So you got to listen to people's experiences, and I'm a firm believer that experience is probably the best, I guess you could say, communicator of truth. I mean, get past the books, get past everything. I mean, if we just listened to our experiences, we'd be in a better place. But we don't as individuals or society. So one of the things that I can believe this about was I used to hear this other conspiracy about. I can't believe I'm talking this much about conspiracies, John. You see what you did to my show?
I bring it out of you.
So I heard this conspiracy about Men in Black at paranormal conferences. You've heard that one, right?
Yeah, I've heard the one where God, what is his name?
Nick Redfern?
Him and Clyde Lewis said they got poisoned. The big 4 or 5G guy who's he's a Christian, so a lot of people can't stand him. But he said that Clyde Lewis was in the hospital and they had poisoned him. They had poisoned Clyde Lewis the day of that research. Oh, God, I wish I could remember.
Was it L.A. Marzulli?
No.
Well, anyways, I went to a couple. I don't like to go to conferences and stuff. I really don't. And the ones I go to are kind of local. But I went to 2. I went to the one in Eureka Springs, which is a pretty big one. And I even went to one here in Little Rock, which was the Arkansas Paranormal Expo. And sure enough, both times, there's these guys. Well, at Eureka, there's these guys that walk around in suits. Nobody knows who the hell they are. Now, that could be a conspiracy, but the fact that everybody I ask, including the speakers, the vendors, the people that are running the place, they don't know who they are. Don't have a clue. But they're dressed like they're super important. And I don't mean they're just dressed really nice. They look like hitmen almost. Well, the Paranormal Expo that I went to in Arkansas here in Little Rock, there was a guy dressed like that, except he was taking a camera and something and just getting in everybody's faces and going around and just, taking pictures of everybody. And I asked the person that was running this thing, I said, who is that guy? Because I'm trying to do an interview and he's got a camera in my face. I'm literally 4 inches from my face, dressed just like a guy from Men in Black would be. And nobody knew. And so that was a weird experience. Now, does it mean that it's true? No, but that type of stuff doesn't happen in your everyday life. So, I mean, it could be.
Well, the guy's name's Anthony Patch. That's right. It was a conference that Anthony Patch and Clyde Lewis was at, and apparently Clyde Lewis got poisoned by G-men at that conference. But they both have told that story. But I found that very interesting. I've never actually been to a paranormal conference, Joe, at all.
Yeah, that's well. I'll keep my mouth shut about that.
Did you ever go to the one, you talk about the one in Texas, that wasn't the one put on by G. Edward Griffin, was it?
No.
Okay. Yeah, G. Edward Griffin, of course, is very big. John Bircher, very big part of that side of the Council for National Policy. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that a lot of those conferences are probably run by shady people. But you don't have to get much into that, but that's just my own inclination or opinion.
Do you know,
especially
this show has been put on a list of shield. I've been put on a shield list. You know that, right?
Everybody gets put on shield lists. That's nothing new.
Well, I was so surprised at it when I saw it. The top 200 shows or whatever, a shield list. It was like Fakeology. They even had a spreadsheet where they would add names and add shows and take them away and put them up. And I'm thinking, what the hell is this? And so I looked into it, and supposedly I'm getting paid by the government. I'm thinking, well, that's funny because I just used a donation to heat up my studio, so I would love to see those government checks. Right?
Well, Joe, if you're getting paid by the government, then I doubt you'd have me on. I doubt you tried to get Josh Reeves on. I doubt you'd have Alex on. I mean, it'd be really hard for me to really believe that because, people like us aren't, there's a lot of people that Joe could have any shill on that he wants on Lighting the Void if he's getting paid those big bucks, but he's just not. And there might be some people I disagree with, of course, that you have on, like Jason Louv or Gordon White, but I definitely don't think that I mean,
well, we can talk about that. I'd like to talk about that.
Very few people know about the Council for National Policy. So for you to have me on to talk about it when very few people ever talk about it, if any at all, then definitely that's a sign that, because there's a lot of, I couldn't go on Alex Jones and talk about CMP, I get thrown off. I could go Jeff Ritz talk about the CMP, I get thrown off. Couldn't go on Clyde Lewis talk about CMP, I probably get shown off too. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a thing that, it's why I told Alex at the beginning, it's a thing that I lean away from because I don't trust anybody's information. I trust people's experiences, and I've had, scientists on the show. We've had all kinds of people on the show that have real information, real experiments and stuff. So I look into that because I think that's important. But to me, just an average Joe listener that's had an experience tells me a lot more than some of this stuff does. I trust it, honestly. I trust it more than I do some of the stuff I read. Now, I'm not talking about blackvault.com where you have actual declassified documents. That stuff I do trust that it's real. But this whole thing is hard for me to trust, because when you chase it all the way down, it's either, well, I don't really have any proof, but this happened to me. So now I have to trust that person's experience that I don't know, right? Yeah. And so I know you and I know Josh, and based on what Josh is telling me, I mean, for years he would talk about some of the wildest stuff that's just out there, man. But when it came to the other stuff, like, his servers getting attacked, all of the documented stuff he talked about, it was real. So I started trusting him. And that's how it works, I think, with a lot of radio shows, is they learn to trust these people, which that kind of scares me, because I've heard some crazy stuff on some radio shows. But
I mean, so have I. And I definitely think that there are disinformations and shills out there. I think that, for example, Corey Goode and David Wilcox are a good example of that. I think they're shills. I think, when you have
Rogan, you think Rogan's a shill?
Oh God, yes. He's part of the intellectual dark web, which is founded by Peter Thiel, which is connection with the Council for National Policy. And
there we go. The Council for National Policy is at the root of everything, isn't it?
Not necessarily, because Peterson throws in lots and more at the Council for Foreign Relations. Heck, he just gave a speech to the Trilateral Commission in Helsinki back in November. So not everything's CNP. Peterson's definitely batting for the Council on Foreign Relations. He's definitely more of a communist and socialist, and not a nationalist in any shape or form.
Do you remember when Joey Diaz busted out Joe Rogan? Do you remember that?
Okay. I know who Joey Diaz is, because I used to listen to Opie and Anthony a lot. And
he's the big guy that's loud.
Yes, he's a big comedian. He's hilarious. I don't remember exactly what he said, but Josh Reeves isolated that clip. That's when they were talking about Alex Jones, if I remember. Yeah, he did. I remember that now.
And he didn't mean to. He just, Joey Diaz was like, listen, Joe, and when I say Joe, he's talking about Rogan. He said, when you were sitting down and meeting with those people, man, I started worrying about you. And you could see the look on Rogan's face started turning weird. I've never seen him make a face like that.
Shut up, Coco, shut up.
And he's like, dude, you really worried me. And I thought maybe, okay, he's joking. They're just putting on something. But he wasn't joking. He was being serious. And Joe Rogan was like, you know what? Those were just people that have degrees, and we just talk about intellectual things. And I'm like, that's a little scary. I never thought for a minute that anything about that Rogan stuff was true until Joey Diaz kind of busted him out that day.
Yeah, I mean, the intellectual dark web, they're all a part of it. They all have each other on. Joe Rogan has on Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin has on Ben Shapiro and Bob. They're all part of the intellectual dark web. The intellectual dark web, of course, Eric Weinstein is the manager of Thiel Capital, and Peter Thiel, of course, is part of the CNP. He used to be a speechwriter back when he was at Harvard for the former drug czar George H.W. Bush, William Bennett. So it all connects. And that's the thing is if I do my own research, I do it with my health stuff, I do it with my conspiracy stuff. The conspiracy stuff is more of a love offering. The health stuff is mainly my where I make my living. But I research all the stuff, and I look at Josh Reeves, and everything I get new information, I always go look, is this true? Can I research this? Can I follow this back? And anybody listening, don't take what I say or Josh Reeves says or anybody. You got to do the research yourself. You got to get this knowledge. You got to experience it yourself to know what's true and what's not. And none of us can know the 100% true all the time. I'm pretty sure that I've told lies that I didn't mean to, or have changed my opinion on things over the years. For example, if you listen to me, if I was out here probably 2 years ago, I'd tell you Trump's our guy. I definitely don't think he is now. But that being said, though, with everything that's going on, you definitely have to research yourself, and you have to look up this stuff yourself. And Joe talks about books. I do read a lot of books. I read a lot, and you have to cross-reference. You need to be able to decipher the truth from the bull crap, the horse crap and chicanery, as Josh.
But how come you always every time I fall in love with somebody, you don't like them? I fell in love with Jason Lou's work. You didn't like Lou's stuff. I fell in love with Gordon.
Well,
Alex, how can you not like Gordon White? Have you read his books? Have you studied any of his stuff?
I have not read his books, but I've heard him when he's been on all the podcasts, because I do more listening than I do reading for people that I care about.
Sure.
But I do like I do agree with Gordon White about humans and pig, human DNA and pig DNA and guinea pig DNA and so forth and so on. Like, I agree. I'm not going to say that everything that, like I say, Alex Jones tells the truth 20 to 10% of the time. The rest of the time he lies.
But what's the fundamental thing that bothers you about this? Because something's bothering you about it, and I want to know what it is.
About who?
About these guys, these magicians. Because it makes me think that
because they're all part of
you.
a group, Joe. They're all part of a group, and if you ain't in it, then you don't get it. They're all part of this central clique, and they all have their own figureheads and their own beliefs, but they all are ratified under it. I mean, Jason Louv, I told you that I thought he was definitely not our guy, and then Alex exposes him on the Skeptiko episode of being a very strong globalist, a very strong pro-science, person that would back up Neil deGrasse Tyson and stuff. And, Alex took him down a peg, and heck, I would take down Louv many pegs.
I didn't think, it was the only thing that bothered me about that interview is when Jason Louv backed up Steve Novella, when he said that his work was fantastic. And, Steve Novella's work is based around entirely that we're fooling ourselves with all of this stuff. Kind of like we're just dummies that believe crazy things, which partly is true, but when it comes to consciousness, I don't think so.
Well, my issue with Louv is I think exactly what I think he's a globalist. I think that he doesn't believe in conspiracy at all. He said all conspiracies are bull crap. He thinks all vaccinations are safe, that all science is perfect. Praise be to science. Even though he's a supposed magician. I'm more of an alchemist in my knowledge of herbs and healing than he. But I mean, it's just sure. It really upsets me. These people that go around and act like that they're truth tellers. I mean, it makes me mad. Alex Jones makes me mad. Ali Alexander and Jack Pisovic and Mike Cernovich make me mad. And there are people that don't make me mad. You don't make me mad. Alex doesn't make me mad. Grimerica doesn't make me mad. I may disagree with you guys on things, but I think genuinely you guys are great and the heart is there. But I think with people with Louv and Gordon White and other people too, I just don't feel that. There are some people who I thought were on our side. That I've made mistakes on in the past, and I won't name a certain person, but if you follow our history enough, you'd be able to figure out what I'm talking about. But there are certain people that I trust that are in the business that have verified, because things that I can do in my own research have verified them to be truth tellers, and they don't shy away from certain topics like the CMP or anything else. Benny Wills from Joy Camp, he's another close personal friend of mine. So when I listen,
you're being honest about it. Most people won't.
When I listen to Gordon White, first couple of times on THC, there were things that I agreed with him on. But once I really started to listen to him and really started, like especially his last episode when he talks about permaculture, which I do think is important, but the way that he's talking about it is from an elitist standpoint, that a lot of people who are poor aren't going to be able to have that opportunity to do what he wants them to do. And then talks about conspiracy and just he just looks at it from Gordon has a very elitist background, so he looks at things from a very elitist point of view, and I just disagree with him. And the way Greg went on that podcast about calling people researchers like me neckbeards and I understand Greg has his haters. And he's had a tough deal with that, but we all have our haters, Joe. All of us do.
Nobody hates me.
You don't get attacked. You got on a shield list. Come on now, you lied to me on that.
Yeah, I know a few people that do.
But that's my issue with it's just their clique. I mean, I don't know.
So they're giving you this elitist truth clique vibe, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's their clique, and I'm not part of it, and I have my own group of people that I trust, and that's just how it is. And sometimes our groups intermingle with one another, and sometimes they don't. And I don't trust Jason Louv, and I don't trust Gordon White.
Okay,
sorry,
right.
It ruffles anybody's feathers.
No, but let me tell you something about Gordon, and I know that he might be an elitist, and that could come across just because he's very articulate, and which is something I've always been jealous of, because I'm not articulate at all. People, if you want me to talk about,
he's old money. He lost his money, but he's still old money, and he's gotten it back.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If you come from money, does that mean that you have an elitist? I mean, everybody's
not everyone. And just because you have money doesn't mean you're corrupted either. Now, me and Alex get on arguments all the time because he thinks Warren Buffett's a good boy. He didn't do nothing. Warren Buffett's heavily steeped in Franklin, very much connected to Omaha. I definitely disagree on Alex on that. But just because you have money doesn't necessarily mean you're a horrible person either. I will say this, the more money you have generally, like if you're one of the richest people in the world, more than likely you probably are a person who does not serve the light and serves the darkness. But just because you're rich doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. It doesn't necessarily mean that you got rich by ill-gotten gains either. So it's the same with Gordon White. Just because he came into old money doesn't necessarily mean that he has an elitist point of view. There's plenty of people coming to old money who are humble. It's just him personally, he rubs me the wrong way.
Well, I can tell you what I think his agenda is, which I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm a member of his premium membership site because I'm learning things from him because, I study magic. And, of course, if I'm going to do that, then I'm going to have to study from people that know what they're talking about, people that have been doing it their whole lives, plus a little bit of people that have already done it. And that's where all the books come in. But what Gordon is really pushing is this it's spot on with what Alex is talking about when it comes to consciousness and what we believe that is. Like what we believe that consciousness is just this thing in our brain, he totally dismisses that. Or we believe that it's a part of psychology and even parapsychology. He dismisses that. He believes in kind of the Rudolf Steiner stuff where everything has a spirit to it. And I mean everything. And he tracks this all the way back, way before religion even started.
But why can't it be a combination of both the ethereal and the physical realm? You can get too woo-woo and you could turn it into Scott Adams and say they were all part of a simulation. Well,
he talks about the physical realm too. More of like it's a codependent relationship, which is some of the same stuff that, Laird Scranton and I have talked about, and even Robert Schoch has talked about just a little bit, has hinted towards it. But you got to read Schoch's book to really get into what he's willing to write about more than what he's willing to say on the air. But
yeah,
but I get that vibe too. But you got to understand that same vibe that you're getting, I've gotten from them as well. However, these guys, I don't know. I mean, I don't know until I'm at the end. I've changed my mind about a lot of things on this show, John. I've changed my mind about chemtrails was the first thing I changed my mind about, and that happened pretty fast once the CIA admitted it. And now China's just doing it openly. They don't care, So everybody's doing it. I've changed my mind about several things on here, and I don't trust people that won't.
No, my mind's changed completely over a lot of things, Joe, and that's important.
Yeah. But I think you should give Jason, I can understand. Jason has his own ideas, and I don't dislike the guy. I think I understand where he's coming from, but I don't agree with it totally. But I think you should give Gordon a little bit more of a chance. Now, if I turn out to be wrong about that, I'll be the first to admit it.
No, I know. I mean, Gordon, if you're listening, if you happen to listen to this episode, reach out to me. I don't mind ever talking to anybody. I don't mind that at all. I look at Gordon as a modern day Aleister Crowley before he became horribly corrupted. Take that as what you will. That's my opinion of Gordon.
But you got to understand chaos magicians first and foremost, right?
I understand that, but I'm not a chaos magician.
I know you're not. So they kind of look at everything as like it's a myth. It's all about mythology and the power of myth. I
understand that. I mean, I look at myself as a light worker as much as I don't like that term. But
I understand what I'm feeling. This vibe from this community is what I'm saying, and I'm talking about listeners too, because some people are listening like, well, these guys are going back and forth about something that don't even matter to me. But I'm telling you, there is a vibe going on in this community, and whether it's valid or not, and I think it has a lot to do, I'm just going to tell you, with Christianity. And I don't mean Christianity in the form that you've always known it. I mean, there's people that believe that Jesus Christ actually lived and that his teachings were real and that all of that story is true. Not all of it, but there's some true real heart, truth, fundamental stuff to that about him being on the earth. Then there's this other group that wants to teach that everything is a myth. Everything is just a powerful myth. Doesn't mean it's not real. And this is where Gordon White comes in. He said, just
why can't it be somewhere in the middle?
Well, that's
my issue.
That's what I'm saying to you, brother, is when Gordon talks about Christianity, he talks about
he holds Alex has him all the time. Oh, I can't think.
He talks about it in a more real fashion than most magicians do.
I know, but he still has it the same. Looks at it as I've listened to him talk about Gnosticism. I disagree with him. I listen to him talk about Christianity. I disagree with him too. Just like I disagree with Joe Atwill, and I've actually caught Joe Atwill on quite a few lies about Caesar's Messiah and Christianity and how he looks at it. And that might be on another episode of Skeptiko when Alex has me back. Alex is probably going to quiz me on that.
Do you agree though that this is where it's coming from? That this and it's not just you; it's other people.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. It's where it's coming from. I mean, battle lines drawn, and some people are going to make their decisions on what camp they want to throw their lot into. I guess some people have said to me in the past it's because of my Christianity, my previous beliefs as a very strong Protestant Christian, is the reason why I believe certain things that I do. Even though I have a good friend who's an Odinist who knows good and well that that's not where my beliefs come from.
Yeah.
And it's very well with the situation of what I'm talking about. So, it
is a very important question, though, right? Because it matters to a lot of people. It really does. It matters to a lot of people, whether they want to admit it or not. Did Jesus Christ, who we call Jesus, was he really here physically? Did he really die? Did he really come back to life, like the story says? And if you look at all of people's, I guess, at the bottom of it, you'll never know that's where it's coming from, because they're talking about, they're talking about animism, and they're talking about conspiracy, and they're talking about different fundamentals of magic. But deep down at the heart of everybody's discussion, I believe, is this. And I think there's a real synchronistic thing about that, which kind of reminds me of when we talk about polarity. Our timeline is based on that. The years, everything we know is based on whether that story was real or not.
I guess you can always, and you're 100% right, and I guess you can always say that in some people's camps, they probably follow Simon Magnus, and people that are in my camp probably followed, you can argue who ran the church initially. Some people say Peter, some people say Mary Magdalene or James the Just, but you can say who throws their lot with who, and I don't throw my lot in with Simon Magnus. I don't follow what they preach. So I do
there's
believe
Gnostic texts that say that Jesus wasn't even on the cross; it was somebody else.
And I do, or the talking cross. And I do believe there is some truth in that Gnosticism too, as well. But that being said, I do believe in Yeshua. I do believe he walked this earth. I do believe that he died on the cross, and I do believe a lot of us is hidden from us, and the church is corrupted.
See, I'm so glad you're that honest, man, because you're willing to go down to the depths of why you believe certain things instead of trying to talk around it, and I respect that more than you know.
Yeah, I'm brutally honest sometimes to a fault, and I don't have a lot of tact.
Yeah, me too. Now, here's where I stand on this, right? My heart, what I've studied from Gordon and other people is that it's real hard to negate the fact that magic, and I'm talking about from a folklore sense, from a looking at the skies and the stars and the planets sense, was here way before that story came up. The fundamental Christian story, that whole thing, it was here way before.
Well, of course we know that. I mean, if anybody's done any research in the esoteric or followed, many people's work, then
I would be almost willing to let it go that Jesus really wasn't here, that he's actually some higher being that's in both realms, right? In this realm, he represents, a certain form of consciousness and logos and stuff. I would be willing to accept that, even with the Mary Magdalene book, right? I would be willing to accept it.
See, the way I look at it is I think that there was a physical manifestation of God as Christ, but he's separate from the spirit that you're talking about. I'm not a Trinitarian.
So here's where I believe like Christ was in the scene and all the stuff.
I believe that too. 100% I believe that.
Here's the one thing that holds me back from becoming a mythicist, and saying it's power in the myth and the logos, and that's just it. And man, there's some really hardcore evidence to this stuff, by the way, just to let you know.
Oh, I know there is. I've seen it. The work of Joe, like I mentioned.
Dr. Stylianos the Teshless always keeps me on the side that the guy was actually here. Now, and he's the only one. The researchersofTruth.org and Daniel Joseph. And no, this guy didn't meet Jesus physically. But this guy did teach, like, when the Theosophical Society talked about secret masters, they never really gave their names or whatever. They learned from Daskalos and Dr. Stylianos the Teshless. This guy healed people with his hands. And I'm not talking about in a John of God type way. I'm talking about putting his hands on people, using the hidden esoteric stuff he was taught with the etheric body and everything, and healed people that were lame and couldn't walk and all kinds of things. And I 100% trust Daniel Joseph for his witness on this. Dr. Stylianos the Teshless says his name was Yahshua, not Yeshua, but he calls him Yahshua, and that he really did live, and he really was here. Now, I'm just telling you right now, at this point in my life, if that story wasn't in my life and me knowing that, I would 100% go with the Logos, the mythicist thing, just based on what I've studied.
I've studied the mythicist stuff, and I've really looked into it, and times I've even entertained it in my head. The more I did the research and the more I looked into it and the more I see the world moving the way it is, it made me go back to being in that camp that Yeshua was real.
Right. So we're on the same page then, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that's the difference between us and the other camp. And I do think some people may switch sides eventually. Yeah. But I think that 100% is the difference. It boils down to those who follow Simon Magnus and those who follow the disciples, and which you believe at that point.
Well, here's the thing about that, and I really want you to try giving Gordon just a little bit more of a chance here, because when he talks in his book Starships, he doesn't claim to know everything, although he talks like he does. He talks very articulate, and he does have an agenda. There's no doubt about it. His agenda is to evolve, but not.
Well, everybody has an agenda.
Not in the Jason Louv type of way, a different type of way. But he does claim that he doesn't know, and here's where it gets interesting. When I mean that he doesn't know, I'm talking about the alien and UFO thing. What he states in his book is that these beings they've always been here, and that they're very interested and have something to do with our beliefs. That's all he knows about that. I haven't finished the book yet, Starships, but that's where I'm at. So just so everybody wants to know, where are you in your research? That's it. Now, to prove like the mythicist thing, that the power of myth and the power of the logos and symbols, Carl Jung's book, and I know that you probably screeched when I said that, but the Red Book does kind of hold water to that, man.
Yeah, but Jung also was a horrible human being.
What do you mean?
That sexually manipulated his patients.
Yeah, I missed that part. You have to send me some stuff on that.
Oh, I got this stuff. It's the work of my good friend C.S. Joseph and his knowledge of Jung and what he has shown me. Yes, he would manipulate his patients just like Freud did.
God, it always comes down to that, doesn't it?
Yep. And that's what a lot of these so-called, not all mythicists, but a lot of them do.
Now, did you follow the John of God story, that guy that was on Oprah?
Yep, the Brazilian.
You know, when I started talking about that to people, most people didn't really know the spiritualists, a lot of women spiritualists knew what I was talking about because they watch, come on, they watch Oprah.
Yeah, they watch Oprah.
But they didn't really know how powerful this guy was. Did you see the story of when he finally surrendered and the cops got around him, that all of this crazy paranormal stuff started happening?
Yeah, but that not necessarily means that he is of God. He could
No, it doesn't. But it does mean that he's tapped into something.
Oh, very much so.
Right? You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
And that he tapped into something and he was using... And see, that's the thing. That's what I'm telling you guys about magic and stuff. Chaos magicians, I think are fascinating. I'm studying the stuff. I think it's great stuff. But I take things so slow because we're all human. I mean, a lot of us are more intelligent than the other one. A lot of us have studied many things more than the other one. But when it, like me and Alex talked about, or Alex and I talked about, when it comes to the big questions, who are we? Why are we here? What's this thing about? Who are these beings that we keep running into that you can't dismiss because there's just way too many of experiences of abductions and reports. You can't dismiss it just because of the sheer numbers. Nobody knows. It doesn't matter how smart you are or what you've studied or who you are associated with. They still don't know. And so when we get into things like consciousness, being explorers of consciousness and magic and stuff like that, I'm not saying shy away from it because you're probably going to find out some truths based on your experience, not books, that you didn't know. But I still think it's safer to go slow. Now, somebody may prove me wrong about that later, but that's why I'm hesitant when I talk about it.
Yeah, I can see that.
I always thought you didn't like me, man, because I talked about magic.
No. Did I ever say?
Well, but just like, we all have assumptions, right?
Just because you talk about, Josh Reeves talks about magic, maybe not in the way that you'd like him to.
Well, I know he doesn't like me.
Bill Cooper would too. There's many people that talked about the esoteric and may say things that you and I both disagree or agree on, and everything.
Bill Cooper, another one that just to prove my point. Bill Cooper revealed more about the mystery schools than it took. It took me 10 years to find out 80% of what he knew about the mystery schools.
Mystery Babylon was an amazing series.
If you haven't listened to that, I don't know what you're doing, but you need to go listen to that.
I just got done listening to it. 44 hours of my life, but it was well worth it. But yeah,
But my point is, though, John, is at the beginning of that series, what did he say? I don't know why Lucifer and Jesus both call themselves the morning star. It's a mystery I'll never understand, and I won't claim to know it. But he had an agenda, and his agenda was to keep real fundamental Christianity at its core, and that everybody was being tricked by these mystery teachings. Now, I don't necessarily believe that right now. I think people are just scared of it.
I agree with that 100%.
It's just like when I talk about my grandfather. I'll tell you a little story real quick. I bring that up because it's been such a big impact in my life. My father used to get kicked out of churches for asking questions. Literally, they called him a black sheep. We never celebrated Christmas because my father knew that it had nothing to do with the real story of Jesus, and he was real adamant about not being part of a lie. My dad just, I know it's hard to believe, but he really doesn't lie. I've never caught him in one in my entire life. And so that's important to him, integrity. Anyways, him and my grandfather would get into fights about this stuff. My grandfather would tell him he's going to go to hell and all this other stuff, but they're best friends too. It's really weird, right? And it used to just tear me up inside because I go to one house, they're celebrating Christmas and all this stuff, and I go to my other house and we're not. Now, my grandfather is I don't know how old he is, to be honest with you, 60-something. Doesn't celebrate Christmas anymore. So all of that stuff he was pounding in my head, he's changed his mind about just now. And he used to be one of the smartest men I knew. Doesn't celebrate Christmas anymore. Doesn't say the word Jesus. Doesn't say amen after he prays.
I don't either. I never say amen.
He knows it came from a pagan, the Egyptian stuff, the pagan stuff, and he won't do it. So, and here's where I have a problem with this. Why not embrace it? And I don't mean embrace it like just totally believe it and turn pagan. What I mean is why not dig a little bit further and see that there might be some truth to this stuff, what they call the old religion. It doesn't mean Jesus wasn't real or anything, but just dig into it a little bit more instead of just pushing it away so fast as soon as you find out about it. Because everybody at some point in their life reaches a certain age when they realize, and pardon my French, that your parents and everybody that you ever looked up to is just as full of shit as you are. that they don't know any answers. And that's a scary thing when you first realize that.
Yeah.
But what bothers me even more is when they get extremely polar when they find out some hidden mystery teachings, then instead of embracing it and digging further, they run from it. Why? Why does it scare people so much? Why does our history scare people so much?
Because it's corrupted on both sides.
What do you mean? Corrupted on both sides, like Republican, Democrat corrupted, or corrupted like?
Well,
good and evil?
like the esoteric's corrupted just as much as the conventional is.
Sure. So that proves my point. Like, it's hard to trust things. So as we explore truth, and thank God for you, John, because I know you're a truth explorer, we do things very slowly and very carefully, but we don't, at least on Lighting the Void, we don't do things out of fear. It's kind of like, who's willing to do this? Now, I'm not saying I'm going to go sacrifice anything or anything like that. I'm not going to sacrifice an animal or no babies or anything of that nature. But let me ask you this, John. If I pricked my finger and dropped a piece of blood on a notebook paper, is that evil to you? Be honest with me.
It's not evil, but
it's a slippery slope, right?
You better damn well know what you're doing.
Right, because we know that blood magic is powerful. We know that.
And I myself don't practice it. So,
better safe than sorry.
Yeah, that's how I look at things. Maybe I'm a little bit too conservative in some of my beliefs, but
what you do, we got to wrap this up, but what you are good at is helping us live longer, man. That you have actually got down to a T. And so what happened to you and your child and the experience that you went through is changing people's lives. And I'm not playing, like, to this day. It didn't happen in vain. All of your work and all of your studies did not happen in vain. You've revealed a lot of true things, and a lot deeper than most people have. And I would say deeper than Rogan himself when he talked about that junk. He doesn't even know it like you do, to helping us live longer. And I'm grateful for you for that.
Well, Joe Rogan has Dr. Rhonda Patrick on all the time, and she contradicts herself. Oh, I can't even.
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject, right?
Yeah, but definitely, Joe. I mean, thank you for having me on Lighting the Void again. No, I don't think you're batting for the other side or anything like that, like you mentioned earlier. Far from it, brother. I wouldn't be talking to you if that was the case.
You'll let me know if you think I am, though, right? Before you just push me away.
Yeah, I mean, I did that to everyone else, and I don't think that I'm going to make that decision.
Right
I don't
on.
think you're cashing a lot on, so
that's a friend for you.
But definitely, as far as Josh Reeves, definitely go check him out. He releases new Mystery Hollywood series, kind of like Mystery Babylon, I guess. Talk about the CMP and Stargates and ritual Hollywood sacrifice. It's going to be great stuff. So, but yeah, as far as me, I got a podcast on the Grimerica Black Budget. We've got the documents with my partner. I mean, we read the documents with my partner, Titus Wilson, and this season we're going out over ritual child abuse and sacrifice throughout the ages. And of course, as Joe mentioned earlier, Yeshua was definitely against that. He said anybody who lead the little children astray, millstone be hung around their neck. So yeah, I mean, I myself researched esoteric, but I don't really practice it.
Yeah.
And I don't fault anybody who does if their heart and intention are in the right place.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. We'll have to do it again. Of course, we'll do this again. And when you say Black Budget, do you have your own show on the Black Budget feed?
I have my own show in the Black Budget.
So in order for people to get that, they'll have to go to Grimerica.ca and subscribe to the Black Budget?
Yes.
The reason why, and you guys should do this too, the reason why you got to do that is because some of the things they talk about are so controversial, they keep it hidden under subscription, and I think that's a good thing. And it doesn't cost much. It's like a few bucks. So go do that. You
can donate $1 a month, and you get access to the Black Budget feed.
I'm on there too. I got one episode on there, but we got to get out of here, man. Thanks so much for coming on, John.
Thank you for having me, Joe, as always.
Go check it out. And don't forget that this show was produced by the Fringe FM and cannot be syndicated without written permission. Music was by Chronos Space Station, Kevin MacLeod. I think we played, carbon-based life forms. I'll give them a shout-out anyways. And Bundy, everybody give Eric your love. He needs your love right now. Eric Markham. And you guys, we'll see you tomorrow night. And if you're listening live, stay tuned for the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better, and we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Acorus, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the Secret Teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Yahoy there! This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare